Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the What If guy, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Issei was abandoned by the girls. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. 1. The abandoned. It all began after the defeat of Triaxa and the Chaos Brigade led by the firstborn of the original Lucifer, who met his end at the hands of his own grandson Valley Lucifer. Months passed filled with peace and tranquility, but all good things must come to an end. Exactly 4 months to be precise. We focus on a brown-haired boy who is feeling quite pleased, having just made it to his final year of high school with a barely passing average of 66. This detail is significant for a reason. He was walking home eager to make the most of the last day of vacation with his friends. Yes, this boy is hired Issei. He opened the door to find all his friends wearing serious expressions. Girls, why the serious faces? He asked, puzzled. One of them sighed. Look Issei, we need to be honest with you, we want to break up with you. An uncomfortable silence filled the room as the very friends he had protected with his life, the ones who brought him joy every day, had just told him they wanted to end things. Why did I do something wrong, Issei? Why, Rias? Why, that's easy to answer, Issei. It's because of your extreme behavior towards us and your refusal to mature. That's why. Aquino. That's right, Issei. We're really sorry, but it has to end. And from that day on, his relationships with Rias, Aquino, Asia, Zenobia, Kaneko, Irina, Ravel, and Sauna came to an end. 3 months later, narrated by Issei. 3 months have passed, and it still hurts that they abandoned me. I spend every day crying when I get home from school. We now live as if we were exchange students. They hardly speak to me, and it's clear that they've moved on since each of them has found new boyfriends. Take Sona and Asia for example. Asia is now dating Saji. It truly hurt to see my best friend with my ex-girlfriends. Then there's Zenobia, who is dating Kiba. Honestly, I don't know what to do anymore. My grades, which were already low, have plummeted, and on top of that, Drake told me that if I keep going like this, I would develop a condition called Dragon's Fall. End of narration. Now we focus on a room where a brown-haired boy is lying alone on a large bed until the rays of the sun stream through his window and hit his face with great annoyance. He gets up and checks the time. It's 7:10. He gets up and heads to the shower. After that, he goes downstairs to have breakfast, preparing eggs and bacon since the girls stopped making breakfast for him after they broke up, and now he has to do it himself. Once he finishes, he heads to the academy. Upon arriving, he sees many students arriving, but his gaze is drawn to a couple of blondes who are kissing Asia and Saji. He discreetly leaves for his classroom, not wanting to witness that scene, and as he sees them, a tear rolls down his cheek. End of the 2. I'm back. Part 1. Upon entering the academy, Issei went to his classroom and sat in his usual spot. After that, the other students entered, followed by the teacher, and classes began. 4 hours later, the break arrived, and he went to the cafeteria to grab something to eat. Since the girls stopped making him bentos 2 months ago, he bought some ramen and went behind an old classroom that had instruments and a sign that read, Music Club, with another sign saying closed. He didn't pay much attention and started eating. After about 20 minutes, the bell rang and he left. As he walked past the basketball courts, he witnessed a scene that shattered his heart. Kiba and Zenobia were passionately kissing with tears in his eyes. He left, not wanting to see any more, but what he saw next only deepened his pain. It was Ravel kissing a boy his age with black hair and brown eyes. Then he saw Irina kissing a green-haired guy with blue eyes. Next, Kaneko was with a silver-haired boy with green eyes, and many said they made a cute couple. The brown-haired boy couldn't take it anymore and left, wishing it were all just a nightmare. But it wasn't. 3 hours later, classes had ended and he went home. Upon arriving, Issei went to his room and locked the door with magic. He threw himself onto the bed and began to cry. Issei couldn't bear it any longer. He felt a pain in his chest, a void that was a terrible sensation for him. Suddenly, he received a communication circle from the Gremory family. Hello, Issei. What's up? Zerches, Isseiken, come quickly. I forgot to give you something, Issei. I'll be there in a moment. With that, the circle broke, and he went to change. Since he was still in his academy uniform, once ready, he headed to the Underworld Lucifer's castle. At the entrance, a magic circle formed, allowing Issei to enter. He knocked on the door, and a silver-haired maid appeared. It was Graphia Lucifuge, the maid and wife of the Mao. Issei. Hi, Graphia. Hello, Issei-sama. Issei. Looking for Zerches. Graphia, this way, please. She led him to Zerch's office. When they arrived, Zerches asked him to sit down. Zerches, you know why I called you? Issei, no. Zerches, you know that some time ago we made you a high-class demon. Issei, yes. Zerches, but we didn't give you the chess pieces, and that's why Ajuka is waiting for you at his castle. Issei, I see, then I'll go get them. Zerches, but before you go, tell me how things are going with my sister. Issei tensed up since Zerches didn't know anything about his breakup with Rias. Issei, I'll be honest with you. He recounted everything about his breakup with the girls and how they had new partners. This left Zerches stunned. Zerches, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I'm sorry. Issei, it's fine, it still hurts a lot, but I have to go. Zerches, alright. And so Issei left to meet Ajuka. A magic circle formed outside the Belphegor mansion which belonged to Issei. He knocked, and a maid with an alluring figure answered. Maid, hello, Issei-sama, what brings you here? Issei, I came because Luciferson asked me to tell Ajuka something. Maid, please wait a moment. 5 minutes later. Maid, you can go in, he's waiting for you in his lab. He entered and headed to the Mao's laboratory. Upon arriving, he saw the Mao looking through a microscope. Ajuka, what brings you here? Issei, he said, continuing with his work. Issei, Zerches told me to come for an evil piece set since I didn't receive it when I was made a high-class demon. Ajuka, right, just give me a sphere of your power and I'll have them ready in about an hour. Issei, here it is. He handed over the sphere for Ajuka to start working, and after an hour it was ready. Ajuka, well, Issei, here it is, he said, handing him the evil piece set which had a black dragon in the center and the rest pure white. Ajuka, what do you think of the design? Issei, honestly, it's amazing. I really like the color of the box, and the dragon makes it look even cooler. Ajuka, so what are you waiting for? Open it. He complied and opened the chessboard. And from there the king piece emerged which seemed to be drawn to him as if calling for his power. This left the Mao astonished, as this had never happened with any demon house, especially not with the most powerful in the underworld. Issei, thanks. Ajuka, I have to go, we'll talk later, he said before leaving. The Mao couldn't articulate a word as he wanted to investigate this unusual phenomenon, but Issei had already left. However, he would call him later on another side, so the plans went awry. And they'll arrive in 3 months, said a young man holding a Xiaomi Note 10 to his ear. That's right, but you should go ahead since you're closer, said the other guy. Yes, I'm currently in Tokyo and it will practically take me a month to get to Kuoh since I need to gather the necessary money to get there. I forgot my money in my room. Haha, just tell us where it is and we'll send it to your account. No, you guys use it to get there faster. It's under my bed. Thanks, brother. Maybe we'll arrive sooner than expected, and when you get there tell Issei I want a rematch. Ha, I will see you, he said before hanging up. Soon we will meet again. Issei, my brother. End of 3. I'm back. Part 2. After that, Issei began searching for members for his nobility, but he couldn't find anyone as some were lazy or only wanted to join for convenience. Since he was the security, they knew they would have his protection and his wealth, as everyone knew he had a channel in the underworld that provided him with more than enough. After receiving his pieces a week later, his parents returned from their trip. He and the girls told them about their breakup and that they would live as exchange students, but they would still treat them like their parents. They were surprised, but they didn't get angry for being honest with them, and so the days passed during which the girls introduced their boyfriends and Issei's parents grew fond of the boys, leaving Issei aside at one point. They even said they were like the children they never had, that they were much better than their useless perverted son. After that, the girls introduced their boyfriends to the entire supernatural world, which sparked many reactions. Half of the supernatural world didn't accept it, while the other half said it was for the best for them to be with someone else. They had already forgotten what he had done over the years, leaving him aside. Both the faction leaders and his friends, the only ones who paid him any attention, were Azazel, Ajuka, Yasaka, Penemu, Serafal, Elmenhild, Gabriel, and Ingvild, who were the only ones concerned about the brown-haired boy. Matsuda and Motohama ignored him, since a new first-year student claimed to have new tricks for spying on the kendo girls which caught their attention, and they no longer paid Issei any mind. To top it all off, they left him behind for less than a week. Those who called themselves friends, as he always thought in his mind, but he knew he had to control himself since he had to submit the university exam for Kuoh. He submitted it and barely managed to pass. Currently at this moment, the brown-haired boy was arriving home, analyzing everything that had happened this month. First, his so-called friends abandoned him for another guy just because of his tricks and for being more popular than him, but the brown-haired boy had only one thought in his mind: they were no longer around whenever things got noisy, so they had only used him to avoid getting Beaten up, then he thought about how his parents had replaced him with boys who barely knew him, and the supernatural beings had also left him behind. They had forgotten what he had done over the years, and it was customary for his parents to leave him aside since they had done so years ago, but he didn't remember anything. He stopped analyzing what had happened and started to change, because today was the day he would visit a friend. Without further ado, he finished changing and passed by some flowers that were for sale. He headed to the cemetery and spent a good while searching until he found who he was looking for. There he stood before a gravestone that read, "Here lies the body of the hero, friend, and beloved Vale Lucifer X Hakuyub 20012018." This gravestone had been there for about a year, where he was buried after the fight against his grandfather Issei. "Hi brother, how have you been?" he chuckled softly. "Lavinia misses you a lot along with your other friends. I've been cheering them up, but they still think about you. I'm still keeping my promise to protect them. I can't believe it's already been a year since you left. You have no idea how much I miss your advice." He falls to his knees, tears in his eyes. "Sniff, they miss you a lot. I don't know what to do. First my HRM leaves me, and then my friends and parents, and Albion doesn't want to wake up. I just don't know what to do, brother. I can't stand seeing them happier with others. I just can't take it." Someone touched his shoulder. "Issei senpai," Gasper said, holding a bouquet of roses and a few sodas in a bag. "What are you doing here, Gasper?" Issei replied, wiping his tears. "What are you doing here?" "I came to bring some flowers for Vale. Can you miss him?" "Yes, Gasper. He was one of the few people who understood me in this world." "Do you want one?" he asked, pointing to the sodas. "Yes, pass me one." Gasper handed him a drink, and Issei started sipping it while the little vampire placed the flowers on Vale's grave. After that they went to the Chestnut residence, sat on the couches, and began to chat. "Do you really miss him?" Gasper asked. "Yes, Gasper, I can't stop thinking about them." "But have you tried to forget them?" "Yes, several times," he said before standing up, going to a small chest by the coffee table and pulling out some glasses to put on. "But I haven't succeeded." "I didn't know you wore glasses, senpai." "I wear them because I can't see the letters in books, and now that I think about it, you're starting to wear men's clothing." "Yeah, I got tired of being treated like a girl and I came to ask for your advice, but I see this isn't the right time." "Maybe it's not the right time, but I'll help you with the change. How does that sound?" "Thank you, senpai." After that, Gasper started coming over regularly, and he had to wear glasses since he couldn't see the letters in books, which led to him being called for eyes. But just when he thought his week couldn't get any worse, he was wrong. Today was Friday, and he was told something about school that would only stress him out more. "Look, Haido, I'm going to be honest with you. Your grades are very poor, and I don't know if you'll be able to enter university. You need help, so I'm giving you another chance. If you get perfect grades in these 3 months, you'll pass to university, and you can choose who will help you. Maybe ask Kates or Murayama or even Asia, but from now on you have to turn in all your assignments perfectly." "Understood." After that they left the academy, and Issei, along with Gasper, went to the Chestnut house. Once inside, "So what are you going to do, Issei senpai?" Gasper asked. "I don't know, and I'm not sure if Kates and Murayama will help me since they hate me for being a pervert, and I don't want to deal with them. It still hurts to see her with someone else. I need help," he said, stressed and very tired. But then the doorbell rang, and he stood up to see who was knocking. When he opened it, he saw a handsome young man his age with a suitcase, but he couldn't see his hair or eyes. Can I help you?" Issei asked. "Does Haida Issei live here?" said the stranger. "Yes, that's me. What do you want?" "I've returned my leader and brother," he said, then pulled down his hood. "Wow, it's so big. I thought you'd be living in the old residence we had," the unknown boy said as he entered, surprising Issei and Gasper. "Wait, who are you, and why do you come in so confidently?" Issei said, trying to remember the young man in front of him. "So you forgot? Well, I'll just say a few words. The Knights of the Apocalypse." The boy's words caused Issei to feel a slight headache. "Issei senpai, are you okay? What did you do to him?" Gasper asked. "Nothing, he's just remembering things from years ago," Issei recalled. Everything that had happened and his old friends. "I remember now," he said, feeling down. "You are?" "That's right, I'm Daichi and I've returned," he said with a smile. "I had forgotten about you guys. How have you been?" "Good, and you don't look like you used to. You were more muscular than I was, and now you look so scrawny." "Yeah, but why don't we talk in the living room? Come on." They moved to the living room and started reminiscing about the past, but they eventually arrived at a topic that mattered to Issei. "Hey Daichi," Issei began, "what? Do you think you could help me change back to how I was before?" He smiled. "I, the sub-leader of the Knights of the Apocalypse, will help you become my old leader and mentor again. Here's rule number 1. If a knight has changed over the years and wants to return to how they were, another knight will help them. Are you ready for your transformation, brother?" "Yes, but I also Want you to help someone else, he said pointing to Gasper. He's Gasper and he used to be a crossdresser but he decided to change. Could you help him and maybe there's another night? Let's see. Okay. Daichi said, then opened his suitcase to look for something. When he found it turned out to be some cigars. He took one and started smoking. Hey, why are you smoking? Issei exclaimed. Come on you, and I used to smoke. Grab one, I know you want to. Issei couldn't resist anymore and took one, lighting it and surprising Gasper. Wow, these are good. Where did you get them? I have my connections. Senpai smokes, the vampire said surprised. Yeah, he used to smoke like a chimney and he always beat us at drinking. Drinking soda, Gasper interjected. No, I mean beer, tequila, and rum. He practically has a high tolerance for alcohol. Speaking of which, do you want a beer? Issei. Give me two. Daichi opened his suitcase again and handed him 2 cold beers. Hey, how do you keep them cold? I just bought them at the supermarket. He said, a bead of sweat on his forehead. Ah, that makes sense, Issei said, then opened one and chugged it down. Well, first I want you to give me your grades and tell me what you do in the afternoons and mornings and take off your jacket. Well, my average is 68 points and in the mornings I wake up at 740 for the academy and in the afternoons I don't do anything. He then took off his jacket revealing how scrawny he was. Phew, we have work to do, gentlemen. And you, Gasper? I have an average of 84 and I wake up at 730 for the academy and in the afternoons I do my homework, he said, also taking off his jacket and showing that he was as thin as a stick from not training. Well, I don't see much of a problem with you. Hey, Issei, do you know a good place to rent an apartment? No apartments for you, brother. You're staying here to live. Thanks, that'll make things easier. Now go rest, we have work to do. Hey, but could you help me with my studies first? Yes, and that's why I'm going to enroll in Kuoh Academy. Hey, how do you know? I'm going to Kuoh Academy. You told me when I left, don't you remember? Are you sure you don't want to come with us? Daichi had asked at the airport. No, besides you know this place won't take care of itself, Issei had replied. Alright, but when I return we'll have a beer together. By the way, which high school are you going to? I'm still not sure, but I think I'll go to Kuoh Academy. Alright, see you, my leader. Take care and come back soon, Issei had said to his friends. Yeah, I remember now, Issei said. So first I'll help you regain the skills you had before and then I'll help you with your subjects. Sounds good, come on, I'll show you where you'll sleep. They walked through the big house until they reached the bedroom. Look, you'll stay here, Issei said, opening the door to reveal a large room seemingly too big for Daichi. Good, and where's yours? Mine is across the hall and if you need anything just let me know. They entered their respective rooms. Meanwhile, in the underworld, Azazel are you sure about what you're saying? Xerxes asked. Yes, and I think it'll be fun, Azazel replied with his usual smile. What do you think, Michael? It sounds fun and it would also be entertaining for my sister. And what do you think, Zeus? Yasaka? We think the same, both replied. Well, it's official, Issei Hayudu will lose the boosted gear, Xerxes joked. Alright, it's official, the World Rating Games tournament will take place no matter how many participants there are they can participate in. 2 months we'll announce it to the public. So when will the tournament be? Zeus asked. In 6 months to build the stadium. But they can't build it with magic. Yes, but we need to make a stadium much larger than the one we have in the underworld since a lot of spectators and participants will come, which means we'll need to use a lot of magic to build it. Fine. With that said, I'll take my leave. And that's the end of the chapter. Where to, Senpai Daichi? Just follow me. With that they left the house and Daichi led them to a library. They were greeted by the curious gazes of the women present. He then brought out books on quantum physics, biology, first-degree equations, and various mathematical topics along with everything else they would need for university. Issei was taken aback when he realized he had to study all of that in just 1 month. Gasper was about to tease him, but Daichi told him the same thing, and so they began studying for hours on end. Whenever Daichi came around, he would challenge them with equations and problems, and if they made a mistake he would lightly tap them on the head to get their attention. This continued until the afternoon passed, and they returned home to eat before heading off to bed. The next day was more of the same, filled with training and studying until Monday arrived for Issei. It felt grueling as Drake kept increasing the weights he had to lift, going from 500 kilograms to 800 kilograms and more on top of Daichi's training and the studying, but they stuck to the routine on Monday, getting up at 6 a.m. to train. What Issei didn't know was that a skill had returned, making him smarter than the entire academy combined. They had already had breakfast and were prepared for school when they ran into Gasper on the way, so they went to the academy together. Upon arriving and entering, they were met with the excited screams of the girls. Kaya. Girl 1, look at those 2 hunks, and Gasper-san came with them. What a cash. she said to her friends who were thinking anything but innocent thoughts. Girl 2, and look at the blue-haired one, his uniform looks tight on him. Do you really think those muscles are real? She said, biting her lip. Girl 3, I believe it. Hey, can you ask that guy what his name is? She pleaded, hoping someone would approach him. Asia, okay, but Zenoviazan has to come with me. Zenovia, fine, she replied with a hint of reluctance. They approached the boys and Asia tapped Daichi on the shoulder. Asia, I have it. Questioned Daichi. Yes, go ahead. What's your name? He asked, showing no sign of nervousness. Asia Argento. Daichi, ah, thanks. So what's your question? Argento-san. Asia, I wanted to ask how you're called and if you're new to the academy. Daichi, yes, I'm new here and my name is Daichi. Nice to meet you. Asia, my classmates over there say you might need help getting to know the academy. 6 Becoming myself again. Part 3. After Gasper entered, Aika approached and slightly opened the door, peeking in at the three of them, falling silent so everyone could hear. Naturally, the entire academy was paying attention, but they didn't dwell on it for long and began to listen and watch what the three were doing in that old classroom. Daichi, alright Issei, get up and show us how rusty you've gotten, he said, urging him to go on stage and grab a microphone while Gasper took a seat to watch the show. Meanwhile, Daichi pulled out an electronic music setup from his backpack and retrieved a keyboard from the instrument storage that was there. The keyboard wasn't very modern, but it would do, and then he put on some headphones. Daichi, all set, let's start. Issei gripped the microphone tightly as if he were nervous. Issei, I have a dream, that's all I need, he said, sounding quite off-key, causing Gasper to cover his ears. Daichi, stop, he said, taking off the headphones. No way, man, you sing terribly. Issei, I know, I'm just really rusty. Daichi, alright, come over and play some music, he said, pointing to the music setup, and Issei went over. Daichi sat down next to Gasper and they watched. Issei started playing some music, but it sounded more than off-key. He was trying to create music, but it actually sounded terrible. Daichi, wait, that's enough, just leave it like that. Seriously, you're rusty. Look, I'm going to show you what I learned from you. Daichi, Gasper, look over there where it says control room and put this where it says lights, he said, handing him a headphone jack, and then come back right away. He went over to the music setup and took off his jacket, revealing his welted body. This made Aika blush along with all the women watching, while the boys shot him glares of envy. Daichi, alright, let's get started, he said, watching as Gasper returned and sat next to Issei on some old chairs, and without further ado, he began. As soon as the music started, Daichi's distorted voice filled the air as he began to play. Dust rose everywhere since all the equipment was connected to the audio system, causing the speakers to shake the entire building. Everyone at the academy was surprised. They couldn't believe that the new guy could create such incredible music, especially given the control and rhythm he maintained throughout. However, the downside was that Issei, Gasper and Aika were left deaf. Daichi himself had gone deaf in the process. He was exhausted, not just from the performance, but because he had to maintain complete control and didn't realize the audio was cranked up to full volume. Wow, I really overdid it, Daichi said, looking around at the dust swirling in the air. That was amazing, Deika-senpai, Gasper said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. That was spectacular. I still can't believe you're the whiny kid I met years ago, Issei added. And I can't believe you're that cool guy I knew back then, Daichi replied. What did you expect? People change over the years, Issei said with a grin. Well, we should get going since we're going to reopen this club and we'll be back in a month to rebuild it, Daichi said. Without further ado, they gathered their things and started walking away, but Aika grew nervous when she saw someone approaching her and quickly ducked into the bushes. In the occult club, Asia was searching on a laptop for the so-called Knights of the Apocalypse. Her curiosity piqued. Just then a magical circle belonging to the Gremory clan appeared in the club, and out came Rias and Aquino. Asia, who hadn't noticed, continued her search. Hello, Asia, Rias greeted. Hi, Rias Onissima, Asia replied, sounding indifferent. Wow, it seems Asia is looking for something inappropriate, Aquino teased, which got a reaction from Asia. No, that's not it, Akena-san, she stammered. So what are you looking for, Asia? What has you so focused? Rias asked, standing beside her. I'm looking for something that caught my attention because a boy said he was one of the Knights of the Apocalypse, Asia explained. He probably said that because his imagination is quite vivid and maybe he said it to motivate himself, Aquino said, rolling her eyes. But I found some information here, Asia said, pointing to a single information window that read, The Knights of the Apocalypse of Kuoh. Let's see. Aquino said, surprised to find that there was indeed information. That doesn't prove anything, Asia, she said disinterestedly, but deep down she had many doubts about who they were. Look, Asia said, pointing to the information window. It says the so-called Knights of the Apocalypse. were an ancient organization that protected the city of Kuoh. They were characterized by having 11 members who had shadows behind them in the shape of knights, which is how they got their name. They had no enemies they couldn't defeat regardless of whether they were armed or trained in martial arts. They always emerged victorious. Asia explained only for the page to have no further information. That's it, there's no more information, Rias said. It seems that's all. Oh wait, there's something here. It says, this information was leaked by Ika Kiryu. Asia said, hoping to intrigue the girls even more. So she was the one who leaked the information, Rias noted. I think I'll ask Ika-san about this tomorrow and find out what's going on. Rias Onisima, Asia said, we came to visit you since nothing interesting is happening at the university, Rias replied. I see, and how are things going with your boyfriends? Asia asked. With mine it's going great, we go out and he spoils me a lot, Akino said. And how about you, Rias Onisima? Asia inquired. With mine it's going okay, Rias said nervously, as she had actually broken up with him a month ago. 7 The real Issei is back in Rias's breakup. A month ago Rias was walking through the park waiting to meet her boyfriend. After sitting on a bench for 20 minutes feeling frustrated, she decided to call him. Suddenly she saw her boyfriend arriving looking very agitated. Rias, I'm sorry for being late, I was busy with something at school, he said. Don't worry, Ryukin, so why did you ask me to meet you here? Rias asked. Well, I wanted to know if you'd like to go on a date with me, he replied. Sure, why not? Rias said, great. Tomorrow at 530-inch, Ryu said, and with that she left. The next day Rias wore a red skirt that accentuated her curves paired with a sleeveless shirt. She was waiting for her boyfriend, but as the clock struck 545 her frustration grew. He hadn't been punctual for the last 2 months. As it approached 600 she suddenly heard a familiar voice. Come on, Gasper. If you want to be a man, run like one. Issei shouted, yes, Issei-senpai. Gasper replied, trying to run faster. Rias saw this and got annoyed, but she was interrupted by Ryu. Rias, I didn't keep you waiting too long, did I? He asked. No, I just got here, she said, irritated since she had waited half an hour. They left, but what Rias didn't notice was that Issei had seen her and said nothing. Gasper thought to himself, so I see he cares more about his relationship than his own family. Rias-senpai. As a tear rolled down his cheek, Issei noticed this and stopped him. Gasper, are you okay? He asked. No, senpai, I'm not okay. Ever since you broke up with Bucho and the others, they started to forget about me and leave me behind. All they care about is their relationships, and now they don't train, they just talk about their perfect boyfriends. When I ask for help they ignore me, Gasper said, shedding tears. I see, Issei said, giving him a few pats on the back. Don't worry, you'll see they'll regret it. And so they continued with their training with Rias. She and Ryu went out to eat too. An amusement park, to the movies and other typical date spots, but when Rias was about to head home Ryu stopped her. Rias, why don't you stay with me tonight? It's getting late and I don't want anything to happen to you, he said. Rias thought about it and agreed. They went to Ryu's house, which wasn't very big but was acceptable. Rias placed her things on the couch and went to the kitchen to see if there was anything to drink, but she found nothing, so she decided to head to her boyfriend's room to sleep. But when she entered no one was there. She sat on the bed and heard someone locking the door behind her. She turned to see Ryu with a lustful and unpleasant expression on his face. For some reason she felt fear at the sight of that face, and something warned her to flee. Rias, Ryu said. Ryu, what's going on? She asked, backing away. Tonight I'm going to make you mine, Rias, he said, cornering her in the room. Wait, Ryu, what are you saying? Rias asked, scared and trying to push him away. I'm going to make you mine, Rias, and no one can stop it, he said as he ripped her blouse, revealing her black lace spear. Wait, Ryu, this isn't how I wanted to do this with you, she said, trying to defend herself. I'm sorry, Rias, but I'm not going to hide it, he said with a grin that sent chills down her spine. She was about to fight back, but he placed an anti-magic seal on her. Ryu was about to force himself on her, and she felt helpless. Tears filled her eyes. She didn't want it to be like this, but it seemed he had everything planned. In that moment of despair, she thought of someone who could save her, someone who had always been there for her. She whispered in her mind, Issei, help me. Just as Ryu was about to act, something unexpected happened. A lightning bolt struck him from a magical circle, leaving him unconscious. It was the circle of gales, now vanished, but a dragon mark formed on Rias's neck. Surprised and taking advantage of being able to use magic again, she quickly put on some clothes and left through a magical circle. After that she broke up with her boyfriend. Present day in the occult club, Rias was lost in thought about how the circle of gales had appeared when she was about to be harmed by her ex-boyfriend, but a certain blonde girl pulled her from her thoughts. Hey Rias Onisima, can you accompany me to see Ika-san after class? Asia asked. Rias thought it would be nice to distract myself for a bit and replied, Sure Asia, but why? I mentioned what happened yesterday and she seemed a bit shocked. Asia explained. Flashback. Hey Ika-san, can I ask you something? Asia had asked. Sure Asia, what's up? Ika replied. Did you leak the information about the Knights of the Apocalypse on that page? Asia inquired, showing her a website. Yes, why? Ika responded. Can you tell me more about them please? Asia asked. Ika was taken aback. She didn't know Asia was interested in that. Find me after class at my house, she said seriously. Okay. Asia replied. End of chapter 1. No, I took a long time and I apologize. I'm planning to release a Betrayed Izuku. And I know it's very cliche, but I want to do it my way, and for that I had to watch Boku no Hero Academia. So, Issei Betrayed will be out this week. Don't get impatient. I'll leave a poll to see which fanfic you want me to upload next. Issei the Greedy Fox. Issei the Fairy King. You decide. 8. The Real Issei is back. Part 2. At the Hayato residence, Asia and Rias were dressed and ready to go to Ika's house. As they walked down the streets they heard some screams. No please, no, have mercy. You showed no mercy to those women. Did you now die? After hearing that, they pretended not to see anything. They arrived at Ika's house and knocked on the door. It wasn't long before she opened it. Rias Onisima, what are you doing here? Ika asked. I came to accompany Asia-san, Rias replied. Well, come in, Ika said, leading them inside to find that no one was home. Your parents aren't here, Ika-san, Asia noted. No, they went somewhere else, Asia, so they won't be back. Ika explained. They went to her room, which was dark, until Ika turned on the light, revealing several photos of hooded figures. What is this, Ika-san? Asia asked. This is the Knights of the Apocalypse, Ika said, rubbing against one of the posters, causing the girls to sweat drop in anime style. And what does this have to do with what I asked you? Asia pressed. What does it have to do? What does it have to do? Ika shouted before calming down. Well, Asia, sit down, she said, and the two of them sat down. They were the protectors of all of Kuoh and all of Japan. When they appeared, they put a stop to all the criminals in the city and the entire country. They not only had the police on their side but also the CAFBI and even the UN. It was rumored that they weren't just mercenaries. The police paid them a hefty sum to capture criminals alive or dead. And the shadow is just a... Asia asked. No, what you're saying is true. Whenever they went on a mission, a shadow would always appear behind them. It didn't matter if the subject had martial arts training or weapons, they always came out on top, Ika explained. And why were they called Knights of the Apocalypse? Asia inquired. That's because it's rumored they were knights in every sense of the word, and the apocalypse was because when they went on a mission the criminals saw the apocalypse before them, Ika replied. And how many of them were there? Asia asked. It was said there were 11 in total, but the most dangerous were their sub-leader and leader, because when they arrived a real massacre ensued, and that's all I know, Ika finished. Thank you, Ika-san. With your permission we'll take our leave, Asia said, bowing. No problem, Asia, Ika replied, and with that they left. When they returned, Akino asked how it went and they shared what Ika had said. She was left stunned by the revelations. The next morning a hooded Issei was seen running to the academy with a piece of toast in his mouth. You might wonder why. Sure. Here's the clean text. Well, it was simply getting late. Issei was rushing and didn't notice who was in front of him, colliding with a very pretty girl with brown hair. Ouch, she exclaimed. Are you okay? Issei asked quickly, standing up. Yes, I just wasn't paying attention to where I was going, she replied. No, it's my fault, I wasn't paying attention either, he said, extending his hand to help her up. Don't worry, she said, taking his hand. Well, I have to go. I'm sorry for what happened, he said, bowing slightly. Before you go, what's your name? She asked. Issei Hairu, and you? He replied. My name is Akira. That's a lovely name. Well, see you around, Akira, he said before continuing on his way. Because he hadn't checked the time properly, he arrived earlier than usual. When he got to school, he found the place completely empty. He asked an older gentleman passing by who informed him that he had arrived much earlier than expected. He entered and headed straight to his classroom. When he arrived, he went to his seat. He considered taking a nap, but decided it would be better to do some math calculations. He pulled out his math exercises, starting with first-degree equations and gradually increasing the difficulty as he worked. He didn't realize that a teacher was watching him. When he revealed the results, he left the teacher astonished. However, he accidentally slipped, causing Issei to erase everything on the board, and the teacher left in silence. About half an hour later, students began to arrive and classes proceeded normally. After the third class, he had the teacher who had been observing him, which was the math class. Well, students, I have an announcement to make. There will be a math and quick thinking competition at Kuoh, and I need a student to represent the school. The winning school will go on a trip to Tokyo, the teacher said. What do you say, young man? He asked, apparently addressing Murayama. But I wouldn't have time since I'm the leader of the Ken Club, Murayama started. But the teacher interrupted. I wasn't talking about you, Murayama-san, I was talking about Issei. What? Murayama exclaimed. Why him? Keitase asked. Hi, you'd come up to the board. The teacher instructed. Issei walked up and the teacher gave him an exercise. Solve it, the teacher said. All right, Issei replied, still wearing his hood and face mask. He completed it so quickly that he surprised his classmates. There you go. Can I go back to my seat now? Yes, go back to your seat, the teacher said, allowing him to return while everyone stared. Hyudu's intellect is remarkable. Not only did he answer everything correctly, but he also submitted all the assignments he had missed in just 1 month, so I chose him to represent the school. Hours later, Issei, Gasper, and Daichi, all hooded and masked, were walking to the old music club. Seriously, I don't understand why you're hiding your new look. You've been doing this for 2 weeks now, Daichi said. It's better this way. Besides, we don't want to draw attention, Issei replied. Well, you have a point, Daichi sighed. Oh, here, he said, handing Issei a piece of paper. What's this? Issei asked. It's the authorized permission to reopen the music club, but there's a catch, Daichi explained. And what's that? Issei inquired. We have to do a demonstration of what we do in the music club. I've already confirmed that we'll perform at the cultural festival, Daichi said. All right, but don't you think we should fix this place up first? Issei suggested, looking at the music room, which was falling apart, and all of this was broadcast by a certain brown-haired student. A month and a half later, Issei, Daichi, and Gasper entered the music club, which had gathered dust since they hadn't returned in a month. Wow, this place really needs some fixing up, Issei remarked. Yeah, it does, Daichi agreed. But the good news is that all the equipment is in good condition, Gasper added. That's a plus for us, Daichi said. Let's see how the chairs are, Gasper said, sitting down in one only to hear a crack before the chair broke, causing him to fall. Issei and Daichi were about to laugh, but then they heard something else crack and saw the wooden floor break beneath them, causing Gasper to fall through. Issei and Daichi burst into laughter. Gasper emerged from the hole covered in dust, having removed his hood and mask. Everyone was left speechless at the sight of him, as the entire academy had seen this thanks to Aika. We need to go. Come on, Issei, Daichi urged. No, I have something to do, Issei replied. All right, I'll catch up with you, Daichi said, winking discreetly. See you, Issei said, heading toward the mechanic's workshop. Issei was adjusting a car on a hydraulic jack when he noticed some club members carrying a chubby classmate. Between 3 of them, one of them holding a wrench, noticed that their teacher was asleep and doing nothing. He approached and found his classmates trying to paint the poor student's belly. As soon as he got closer, they turned to see him and ran away, leaving the chubby guy behind. He just kept saying, "Thank you," bowing repeatedly as he left. The Kuoh University baseball team was hitting a piñata shaped like a tiger. Issei didn't pay them any mind and continued on his way. He arrived at a 1969 Camaro without paint and noticed an appealing girl in a stylish outfit admiring a luxury car. Nice car, she said. Thanks, Issei replied. But don't you think it's too old and slow? She asked. It's not the car, it's the driver, Issei said confidently. Just then the captain of the university baseball team, Jack, approached. Seeing the two of them talking, "Hey, are you flirting with my girl?" Jack asked. "She was just admiring my car," Issei replied, watching as a crowd of university students gathered. "My grandpa's Beetle would leave you in the dust. Don't take the risk," Jack warned. "But my dad didn't buy it for me," Issei said, smirking. "Ugh," echoed throughout the parking lot. "This beast has a V8 engine and 450 horsepower, and it goes from 0 to 100 in 43 seconds, Jack boasted. "Why did you read the manual?" Issei said, getting into the car and noticing how the girl laughed at him. He backed up to leave, and when he was about 35 meters away, Jack grabbed a ball and threw it, hitting the rear windshield. Issei slammed on the brakes. "Here I go," Jack said, approaching with his friends. Issei got out with a smile and Jack confidently advanced, but Issei pulled out a key, causing Jack to stop suddenly. "Why don't you fix it with your cars?" the girl Veronica suggested. "I wouldn't use your junk," Jack replied. "The winner gets me," Veronica declared. With that, they nodded in agreement. "Let me know if you need any further assistance." "I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that. I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that." I heard the roar of modified car engines and caught sight of stylish women in miniskirts and fitted tops as they passed by, smiling and parking. Issei glanced at Daichi, who smiled even wider. Home sweet home, he said as they both got out of the car. Daichi wandered off to check out some cars while Issei headed in another direction. He noticed the girls posing with the cars, but his focus was on the audio equipment and engines. Suddenly he heard a familiar voice, "Leave us alone." Issei's heart sank. "Oh no, this can't be happening," he muttered, rushing over as he saw a guy trying to kiss one of the girls while pulling her closer. "Come on dolls, come with me and I'll introduce you to some friends, we'll have a lot of fun," the guy said with a grin. Zenobia replied firmly, "We already told you no." Just then Issei stepped in. Hey there with me buddy," he said, positioning himself protectively behind the girls. The guy left grumbling as he walked away. "What are you doing here?" Issei asked the girls. Aika responded, "That's what we need to tell you." "Hyudu, what are you doing here?" "That's none of your business," Issei replied just as Daichi returned. "Hey Issei, there's an incredible car over there," Daichi said, pointing in the direction without noticing the girls. "We have a plan," Issei said, trying to move aside to reveal them. "And what are they doing here?" Daichi exclaimed. Suddenly the guy from earlier returned with his friends. "Hey you," he called out. Issei groaned. "Oh no, not again." He turned to face them. "What's going on?" "So you're the one who won't let my guy have any fun," one of the newcomers said. "And you are?" Issei asked. "Hagato, one of the best drifters here." "What do you want?" Issei inquired. "Those women," Hagato replied. "Sorry but no," Issei said, turning to grab the girls and move away. "How about a bet?" Hagato suggested, stopping Issei in his tracks. "If I win I get those girls and we'll have a blast." "And if I win?" Issei asked. "You get this $100,000, Hagato said, tossing a bag of money into the air. Zenobia started to protest. "We're not." But Issei silenced her with a finger, making her blush. "Deal, but I don't have a car." "I'll lend you mine," Hagato offered, tossing him some keys. "Then let's race," Issei said, stepping closer to Hagato. With that he took off. "I see you haven't changed that good boy look of yours," Issei said seriously. "And you're still as troublesome as ever," Hagato replied, equally serious. Then they both smiled. "Masamune, how have you been?" Issei said, extending a hand for a shake and a hug. "How have you been, Masamune?" Daichi asked, greeting him just like Issei did. "I've been better," Masamune replied. "Where is it?" Issei asked. "Warehouse 16, Masamune said, handing over another key. "Daichi, stay here and keep an eye on them," Issei instructed. "Hi," Daichi replied, and Issei headed off to Warehouse 16. A guy nearby spoke up. "Hey, what do you think you're doing in that warehouse?" "I borrowed this car," Issei said, pulling back a metal curtain. He uncovered a car and admired it before starting it up and driving out. "You know that's a car from the founders of this place, right?" the guy said. "I know. It belonged to Shoji and he lost it in a race against his friend. That's why I came to reclaim it," Issei said, surprising the guy, who was left speechless. As Issei drove away, he arrived at the race location where Hagato was waiting. Scared, Hagato taunted, "Dream on," Issei replied confidently. The countdown began and they took off. 20 minutes later, everyone was on the top floor of the parking garage. Issei had arrived first, leaving Hagato in the dust. "Pay up," Issei said. "Fine," Hagato replied, reluctantly handing over the money. "Hey, tell the Drift King I want to race with him," Issei said, pointing at Took. With that he left. In another place, Took approached Sean. "Hey Sean, what's up Took?" "A racer, they say he's beaten everyone in Asia, wants to race you." "Not today man," Sean said, continuing to talk to his girlfriend. "He's like family to Shoji," Took insisted, making Sean look up. "Then let's race." Scene changed. Sean sped in his car as people gathered around. A song played in the background. He pulled up alongside his competitor, checking him out. "Nice car," Sean said. "I won it from my friend Shoji." "In a bet," Issei replied. "This won't last a few seconds, buddy. I've got all night," Issei said with a grin. "Ready, rookie?" The countdown began. Engines revved and they were off. End of 17. Passing time in Tokyo. After the race they checked out the parking lot. "I never thought Shoji would like Americans," Sean remarked. "Opinions change over time," Issei replied. "And I never thought they'd take such tight turns." "Well, now you know," Issei teased. "Are you staying a while longer?" Sean asked. "As much as I'd like to. I have to take some girls to a safe place," Issei said, pointing to a trio from the church. "Looks like you're on babysitting duty," Sean smirked. Issei replied tiredly. "Well, see you later, Sean." He walked over to where Daichi was with the girls. "Daichi, let's go." "I'll take the pervert," Daichi said. "And who else?" Issei asked. "Isn't it enough that she tried to annoy me on the way?" "Come on, do you really think she'd do something like that?" Issei said, glancing at Kiryu, who wore a mischievous smile. "Forget it," They headed to the cars and Issei made sure all 3 girls fit in. They left thanking Masamune. Along the way Issei drove calmly until he heard a complaint. "Couldn't you have a bigger car?" Zenobia said, feeling cramped. "Just adjust yourselves and be quiet," Issei replied. "What's wrong with you? That's not how you speak to a lady." "You're not exactly a lady," Issei countered. "Just pull over." Issei stopped by the side of the highway and she got out of the car. "Just because you're driving you think you're a big deal? You want to drive, go ahead," he said, opening the door. Zenobia got in and tried to start the car, but it was a manual. Frustrated, she looked away. "I'm still waiting," Issei said. Zenobia climbed into the passenger seat with the girls. Issei sighed and got in, noticing how uncomfortable the girls were. He sighed again. "Zenobia, come with me." "For what?" she asked. "Just come." She obeyed and got out of the car. Walking over to the driver's seat, he pulled her in, making her blush as she ended up in his lap. What are you doing?" she stammered. Issei didn't respond and they drove off in silence, a somewhat comfortable silence. Zenobia appreciated his toned body and the scent that attracted her. 20 minutes later they arrived at the hotel and were greeted by the receptionist. "Good evening, Issei-sama." "Good evening. What's the room number for these girls?" he asked, pointing to the girls behind him. "Just a moment," the receptionist said, checking his computer. "Here it is, room 76. Here, this is for 2 more nights for them," Issei said, handing over $500. "And you can keep the rest." Prompting the receptionist to thank him, he noticed Daichi carrying Kiryu, who was asleep in his arms. "I guess she couldn't handle the drift," Daichi said. "I don't blame her. It's already early morning," Issei replied, checking the time. It was 1:38 a.m. "Well, I'll drop her off in her room," Daichi said. "And you girls," Issei said, pointing to the others, "go to your room. The hotel is paid for another 2 days, so don't spend what you got for souvenirs," he said, handing them $1,000. "What's this for, Issei-san?" Asia asked, surprised. "It's to cover what you spent here, Argenta-san," he replied. After that they left. Daichi, after dropping off Kiryu, went to his room. Issei went to Ross's room and lay down beside her, spooning her. The next day Issei woke up and saw Ross sleeping. He checked the clock. It was 809. He watched her, mesmerized by how she slept. He curled up and pulled her closer, but then he heard a knock at the door. Feeling a pang of embarrassment, he saw Ross waking up. He stood up and opened the door grumpily. Issei opened the door to find Irina standing there. "What do you want?" he asked. Issei-kun, could you take us to the hotel where Azazel-sensei is? Didn't he give you his number in case you got lost or something?" "Yeah, but it got wet in the rain yesterday and now the number is unreadable." "Fine, I'll take you. I have to go there anyway." With that he closed the door. Ross was already awake. "We need to head to the excursion," he said. He changed into his academy uniform and Ross changed into her outfit. Then they left and Daichi caught up with them. They saw the girls coming out of their room and walked over Issei's side, and they all left together. When they arrived, all the students were waiting for them along with Azazel. "Where have you been?" Azazel asked. "Not too far, just at a hotel I know," Issei replied. "Okay, but you should have let us know." "Relax, sensei. It's no big deal," he said, pulling out a lollipop and popping it in his mouth. "I don't think it's a lack of respect, Azazel-sensei. Don't you think they deserve a punishment for not letting us know?" Kiba suggested. "Yeah, don't you think that would be the right thing?" Saji added. Upon hearing that, Issei bit into the lollipop, breaking it between his teeth, making everyone stare. Ross stepped in front of Issei to protest. "Wait, Azazel, I was with them. If they didn't say anything, it's because they were with me, so don't punish them." The 2 boys were annoyed because their plan didn't go as expected. Meanwhile, Zenobia and Asia were upset because not only were they facing punishment, but their boyfriends seemed more interested in humiliating Issei. "See, Azazel, we weren't alone. She was with us," Issei said. "You didn't say the same thing last night," Irina whispered, but Issei elbowed her. "Thanks, Ross, for what you did. I'll make it up to you tonight," he said, whispering in her ear. The last part said in a sultry voice that made her blush. And that's the end of the 18 return to Kuoh and a wild outing. All the students from Kuoh enjoyed the trip, passing through various culturally rich places. The city of Tokyo was both traditional and technological, which fascinated them. Issei and Ross visited several spots, sometimes separating from the group, but they split up at a 100 yen store. As Ross was a huge fan, she grabbed everything she could. Until it was time to pay. "That'll be 5,500 yen, please," the vendor said. "I have it," Ross replied, but she realized she only had 3,600 yen, which made her look sad. Issei, seeing this, smiled, which made the vendor blush. "I'll pay," he said, handing over 10,000 yen. "Thank you. Thank you for your purchase," she said, blushing. "You have a really nice boyfriend, miss." Ross turned red at that remark. Issei smiled and replied, Thank you for the compliment. Before planting a kiss on Ross, making her blush even more after that they left and managed to catch up with the group. The day passed with smiles from Issei and Ross while Daichi simply enjoyed watching his friend's happiness. That night they returned to the hotel where they were staying. Ross reached her bed and flopped down with a sigh. Oh, what a long day. Hey Issei, why are you changing? She asked, watching him put on a brown jacket. Get changed, I'm taking you somewhere special, he replied. She followed his suggestion and put on something she had brought just in case. A long blue dress with light blue shoes that suited her perfectly. Without further ado they left with Daichi accompanying them. They arrived at a club and since Issei and Daichi didn't need tickets they walked right in. As they entered the music began to fill the air. Come on Ross, dance with me, Issei urged nervously. She agreed and they began to dance. They were having a great time until Ross accidentally spilled a drink on a guy. Hey, what's wrong with you? The guy shouted. It wasn't my intention, I'm sorry, Ross replied, visibly flustered as people stepped back and formed a circle around them. Do you know how much this shirt costs? It's worth more than a year of your salary, the guy exclaimed. Please, I already apologized, Ross said. Not enough, now you're going to pay for it. Just then Issei arrived. What's going on? He asked. This lady spilled my drink on my shirt, the guy replied. It's just a shirt, don't exaggerate. Look, we don't want any trouble, so I'll pay for the shirt and we'll be on our way, Issei said, putting a hand on Ross's shoulder to lead her away. Look at the coward running from the problem, the guy taunted. Issei suddenly stopped and walked over to the guy. You know what, I'm tired of you. How do you want to settle this? How about a dance-off? The guy suggested. Showing off a dance move. I hope you like bass, Issei replied, snapping his fingers. Daichi went to the DJ, switched the song and started a new track. Issei began his dance moves, effortlessly gliding in place before doing a backflip. The guy responded with his own dance steps and Issei had to admit, he was good. Then it was Issei's turn again and he started to show off his moves. The guy hesitated, running out of options. Issei stayed in place, executing a double step and then skillfully moving his feet, leaving everyone in awe. The guy had no more tricks up his sleeve and conceded defeat. Honestly, I didn't expect this. You left me with no options, he admitted. Thanks for the compliment, but isn't this supposed to be a club? Issei shouted and everyone cheered. Let's go, he said, pointing at Daichi, who cranked up the volume and handed Issei a microphone. Everyone began to jump and move wildly. It was a night of excitement. Things got even crazier when the bartenders started bringing out drinks. The party was in full swing. The music kept blasting and the atmosphere was electric. At 2:39 am, Ross was seen with her hair all disheveled, just like Issei and Daichi, but she was feeling the effects of the night and Issei was carrying her on his back. When they reached the hotel they headed straight to their rooms. Issei laid Ross down on the bed, but she seemed a bit playful. Issei, she said, wrapping her arms around him. Wait Ross, you're not yourself right now, he said, trying to calm her down. Come on, Issei, I want to be close to you, or don't you want me? She asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. I do, Ross, but not like this. It'll just be once. I said no. Either we do this or do you not like me? She said, her intentions clear. The next morning Ross woke up to find herself in an unfamiliar situation. She was covered only by a sheet and as the rays of sunlight streamed in they hit her face, waking her up. She tried to move but realized she was lying on the chest of Issei. Startled, she jumped up. Feeling disoriented, she began, her mind racing as she tried to piece together the events of the previous night. Issei, well, you practically seduced me and made me do it. Ross, what? No. Issei, what's wrong? Ross, didn't you enjoy what happened last night? Ross, it's not that. The problem is that we did it without being married, she said, tears streaming down her face like in an anime. Issei, so what? Ross, it's just that all the women in my family have been very conservative about this. On our wedding night we give our first time to our husbands and I just broke that tradition, she said, tears still in her eyes. Issei, I see, but we're already engaged, so you didn't give your first time to a stranger, right? Ross, well, you have a point. Issei, besides, you were amazing last night. How about we do it again? He said in a sultry voice. She simply nodded. 19 returned to Kuoh, a visit to the university, and the Knights of the Apocalypse appear after that. Issei and Ross hardly left their room. The trio from the church was heading to Issei's room to ask him to take them, but on the way they ran into Daichi. Daichi, where do you think you're going? Irina to Issei. Daichi, Issei is busy. If you want to go on the excursion I'll take you. Asia, but Daichi, no, but you owe me one. Issei, he said before leaving. After that they left. Issei and Ross hardly left their room as they only ordered room service, and when they finished they went out for a stroll around Tokyo since Issei knew the city well, and thus the days went by. There was nothing special for Issei and Daichi since they already knew the city. Issei had improved his relationship with Ross to the point that he would move the wedding date up by 3 months. The agreed days of the trip passed, and it was time to return. Everyone had taken the train except for two. Issei and Daichi, who told Ross that they would take care of some matters and would be delayed for another 3 days. Upon arriving in Kuoh, all the students were greeted by their families and acquaintances. The trio from the church was welcomed by the occult club Rias. So how did it go, girls? Asia: very well, Rias and Izuma. We learned a lot about Tokyo and Issei. She whispered the last part, but Rias heard it. Rias: about Issei. Asia: I'll tell you at home, and these are for you. Kaneko, she said, handing her a bag of sweets, but Kaneko didn't seem very cheerful. Is something wrong, Koneko-san? Kaneko: no, nothing's wrong, she said, now a bit more attentive, taking the sweets. Then they arrived at the Hayato house. Rias: now tell me what you discovered about Issei. Asia: he drives a style called Drift. He knows Tokyo and he has friends there. This surprised Rias and Akino Zenobia, and he had the audacity to put me in his lap, she said, slightly blushing while taking a glass of water. Akino: and why was that, Irina? You see, she said, recounting what happened. Rias: and just because he went to a bad neighborhood, you all did too. She yelled at them as she promised to take better care of her pieces after what happened with Gasper. Asia: sorry, Rias and Izuma. Zenobia: it wasn't our intention to end up there, she said with a bow. Rias: thank God Issei was there. Ouch, she said, holding her head at the mention of the father of angels. 3 days later you could see some cars speeding in a race. Issei: what's wrong, Daichi? Are you going slower? He said through a communicator. Daichi: you'll see, this time I'm going to win. Then a sign appeared that read City of Kuoh, and they just accelerated more. They arrived at 7:39 p.m. They opened the garage and parked their cars in the underground parking lot of the Hayato house and took the elevator upstairs. Daichi: and now what? Issei: today we train and figure out what sacred gear you have, as I detected an unusual power in you. After he said that, they arrived on the upper floor and went to the training room. Issei: all right, to awaken your sacred gear you have to imagine that you are the most powerful being or something like that. Daichi: okay, he said, taking off his jacket. About 5 minutes passed until he screamed as flashes of golden light erupted from his chest. Drake/Albion: oh no, please. Then a necklace in the shape of a feathered serpent appeared, and they all had chibi faces, and a cat in anime style popped out. Daichi: and that's it, a necklace? I thought it would be a spear or a shield or something more powerful. Insolent brat, I heard you. Issei: this doesn't usually happen. Daichi: what are you talking about? Issei: you have a sacred gear, something rare, as it is none other than Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, but I don't know if it's a dragon or something like that. Quetzalcoatl: of course I'm a dragon, it just doesn't show my traits, but I'm not just any dragon, I'm the 4th dragon god. Issei: if you're the 4th dragon god, why does almost no one know about it, and how did you end up in that sacred gear? Quetzalcoatl: it was because of 2 insolent dragons, the Red Emperor and the White Emperor, as they made me seal myself in this, said the dragon with hatred, but the biblical god and I negotiated, so now I'll just beat Drake and Albion. Drake and Albion only got nervous upon hearing that Quetzalcoatl: I will torture them and make them live in hell along with their hosts. Ha, he said with a malicious voice. A drop formed on Issei's forehead, anime style. Issei: yikes, I don't think that's going to work. Quetzalcoatl: what do you mean? Issei: because I have Drake and Albion, which makes it complicated since your host is my queen. Piece. The dragon said nothing until Quetzalcoatl: what? This only happens to me, but I won't lose hope of getting my revenge someday. Daichi: and I apologize for disrespecting you. I didn't know you were a dragon god. Quetzalcoatl: no problem, kid, you even respect me more than your grandfather. Daichi: you knew my grandfather? Quetzalcoatl: yes, you resemble him a lot, in fact you are his reincarnation. Ha, Daichi: actually I never met him, could you tell me a bit about him? Quetzalcoatl: sure, I don't see the problem. Issei: ahem, training first. Daichi: oh right. Quetzalcoatl: dono, could you lend me some of your power? Quetzalcoatl: of course, kid, let's kick Drake and Albion's butts. 1 hour later you could see the girls in the living room watching television until the voices of 2 boys were heard. Issei: ha, so you want a rematch? Daichi: that's right, I can't believe you're still obsessed with that juice. The 2 had entered without their shirts as they had torn them during training, and they went to the kitchen for some bottles of water. The girls blushed as the living room was next to the kitchen, and they had seen them, but what made them blush more was Issei's body, which was more toned and muscular. Issei: all right, go rest, we have classes tomorrow. Then he left, but Issei was called by Rias. Rias, Issei, can you come here for a moment? He went to the living room. Rias, could you put on a shirt or something? Issei, I don't see the problem with that. Rias, well, never mind. Could you explain who he is? Issei, he's my queen piece, my friend Daichi. Rias, and if you know why he's living here? Issei, well, I offered him shelter and I don't see the problem. Rias, of course there is a problem. What if he tries to violate one of the girls or steal something? Issei, he's not capable of that. Rias, I know him, and since when do you care so much? Rias, of course I care. What if he's a pervert just like you? When she said that, she immediately regretted it. Sorry, that wasn't my intention. Issei, Miss Gremory, I'll say this once, stop meddling in my life and stop judging people just because you don't know them, and don't think I didn't find out what you did to Gasper, he said angrily. She was surprised to hear him refer to Gasper by his last name, not his first. Rias, you know, Issei, I know everything about the abuse, the mistreatment, and the poor management as a queen. If it weren't for me, he would have already become a renegade demon. Rias, because of you. Issei, that's right, if it weren't for me, that's why I united him with my nobility. She was left speechless at what he said. Then he left, but not before saying, Issei, and I recommend you don't bother him for a while, as now he is more powerful than your entire nobility, he said before going to his room. Zenobia, so he was, she said angrily. Aquino, Rias, we need to do something, this can't be left like this. Rias, no, he's right, my nobility is weak, because of me we haven't trained for over 2 years, and that weakened us. We depend so much on Issei that we forgot about ourselves. Starting tomorrow we will train the next day. You could see our favorite duo at the entrance of the classroom. Then they knocked. The teacher opened the door. Teacher Issei and Daikizan, the principal gave me the permissions from the other day. Come in, I have an announcement to make. Then they entered and went to their seats. Teacher, as you know, you will be going to different universities, so today we will visit one, which will be Kuoh University, one of the most prestigious universities, so prepare your swimsuits and other things. Murayama, and why the swimsuit? Teacher, you might have to swim as they have a large pool there. Then they went to prepare their things for the visit. Some were excited and others were nervous. 1 hour later, you could see the students at a large door that read, Welcome. Then a student came out. She was a blonde girl with blue eyes and a white uniform with burgundy and black details. Good morning, Kuoh High School students. I am Hayuki, the student council president. They greeted her respectfully. Hayuki, well, please follow me, she said for them to follow her. As you know, Kuoh University is one of the most prestigious in the country, she said while passing by a classroom. Here we focus on different studies. They passed by a classroom where there were models and students painting. We also learn a bit about botany. They passed by a greenhouse. We also have free time. They passed by a field where several students were hanging out. But the important thing is that you learn your objectives. Then they arrived at a pool. Hayuki. All right, those who can swim, raise your hands. Then everyone raised their hands. All right, go change. The swimming captain will supervise you as I have things to do, and then you'll have a little break, she said to introduce the captain. Yuko, all right, I'm the swimming captain, so go change. Everyone nodded. Then they went to change. 20 minutes later, you could see several students from the academy at the pool until the most outstanding ones came out. The girls from both the university and the academy were blushing, and a few had a nosebleed, cursing the 2 boys who came out of the locker rooms. These were Issei and Daichi in their swim trunks, which reached their ankles, exposing their welted bodies. Then they smiled at each other and nodded, then started doing star flips simultaneously, then began jumping with their feet and hands until they made one last jump and spun in a whirlwind in the air and fell into the pool. Everyone applauded for their great performance, and they came out of the water with amused smiles. 30 minutes later, you could see everyone in their uniforms. It was already break time, and the swimming captain gave directions on where to go to buy their lunches. Issei and Daichi went in another direction as they had brought bentos that Daichi had prepared. Then Issei heard some screams coming from some classrooms in the back. Daichi, is something wrong? Issei, no, it's nothing. Hey Daichi, wait for me in the field. Okay, Daichi, all right, but don't take too long, he said before leaving. Then Issei went to the back of the classrooms and saw 3 girls. One of them had scissors and hair in her hand. Then he saw another girl lying down with her hands on her face, apparently crying. Girl 1, minute, if it weren't for you, that guy would be with my sister and taking care of her. Why, you just ruin people's lives with your mere presence. Issei saw the girl on the ground, and it was none other than Aquino. Her hair was cut and her clothes had several dirt stains. Then the girl was about to cut more hair, but he quickly stopped her. Issei, why so much violence? Miss, he said respectfully. The girl was going to insult him, but then she saw him and blushed since he was very close to her. What did this girl do to you for you to attack her like this girl? One, she's dating the guy who got my sister PR'd in tea and he doesn't want to take responsibility for her, she said with anger and disdain towards Akino. Issei, I see, I'll talk to your brother-in-law. Don't worry, and I want to meet your sister, so bring her to Kuoh Academy tomorrow. She nodded and left with her friends. The two were left alone. Issei, come, I'll fix your hair, he said with scissors in hand. Akino, why? Issei, why? What? Akino, why are you so kind when I treated you like some for being a pervert? Issei, aw, that I really don't care, I had already forgotten about that, he said, standing behind her and starting to cut her hair. Akino, do you think I'm a disgrace to others? She said in a barely audible whisper. Issei, no, it's just that you don't know who you're getting involved with, he said, cutting more hair. Akino, what do you know about that? Issei, more than you can imagine, he said, stopping cutting her hair and pulling out a mirror from a magic circle. What do you think? Akino looked at herself in the mirror and saw that her hair was well cut. In fact, she liked it. Akino, how can I repay you for what you did for me today? Issei, with a favor, he said, looking her in the eyes. Akino, I see, she said, starting to unbutton her shirt. Issei, I didn't mean that, he said, seriously grabbing her hands. She was confused by what he did. Issei, tomorrow bring your boyfriend to the academy and that way you can repay me the favor. Well, see you, he said before leaving. The day went by without any issues. They visited several places at the university and did some botany science exercise among other things until the visit ended. 6:30 p.m. You could see Issei in the kitchen looking for a drink, but then there was a knock at the door. He went to answer. When he opened it, he saw Ravel's boyfriend Yoshiko, who came dressed casually. Yoshiko, could you call Ravel? Issei, sure, one moment, he said, closing the door. Miss Ravel, your boyfriend is at the door, he shouted, but no one answered. He went to Ravel's room. Issei, Miss Ravel, your boyfriend is at the door, he said, knocking softly. Then he saw that it was open. Ravel, he said, seeing that no one was in the bedroom, but he saw that the bathroom door was open. Then he entered and saw something that terrified him. Issei, Ravel, he said, seeing her lying on the bathroom floor apparently unconscious. He felt her pulse and it was weak. He left the room and saw Daichi passing by. Daichi, tell the guy that Ravel isn't here while I take her to the hospital, he said, teleporting in a magic circle. Daichi quickly went downstairs and went to the door. Daichi, sorry, but Miss Ravel isn't here. Yoshiko, but he was silenced as the door was closed on him. Underworld Citri Hospital. You could see how a magic circle was forming outside. Issei, please Ravel, don't die. And when do you plan to use it? Issei, when the moment arises. They moved forward and reached the center of the village, but then, Pum Dom anti-tank. Jason shoot. Ford reload. Jason firing. They watched as the anti-tank weapon exploded, engulfing the area where the Taliban were. Soldier 45, don't shoot them, let them burn, he said, stopping a soldier who was about to fire. Luis, hey, what's he doing? He said, watching Issei emerge from his hatch. Issei, to enhance their suffering, he said, lighting a Molotov cocktail and throwing it at the Taliban, some of whom were now engulfed in flames. They screamed in agony until they succumbed. Then an Afghan emerged from a building, apparently waving a white flag. Fortunately, he spoke English. Afghan, we surrender. Finally, the war is over, thank God. Dom, tell them to come out with their hands up. The Afghan instructed everyone inside to come out. Soldier 43, then they're all kids. Dom, hey, he's the one who hanged the kids. He nodded. Dom, stop that one, he said, pointing at a Taliban fighter with a broken arm. Yes, that one with the broken arm, shoot him. Soldier 45, hello friend, you're going to be here, bye-bye. Then another soldier shot him, ending his life. After that, all the soldiers started drinking. One found a canister and began to play music while others tossed things from a house, and another had a bundle of cash that he hit with his weapon like a bat. Luis, I'll protect you. Appealing, do you want to see the tank? He said, leading a girl inside the tank, and Jason just watched them with a small fire lit. Dom, Issei, follow me. He nodded. They entered a building, reached the 3rd floor, and found some dead Taliban. Dom, they knew we were coming. They committed suicide at dawn. Issei, why are you showing me this? Dom, to show you that some ideals are peaceful but others have different ideals. Issei, and what are those ideals? Dom, power, arrogance, pride, money, and so on. Issei, Dom, I know what you can do, kid. On the battlefield you're a beast, a bloodthirsty killer, pure evil. That's why I showed you this, to tell you not to be like these guys. Follow your ideals, he said as he left the room. They returned to the tank. When they arrived, Dom started smoking, but then he noticed something strange in a window. Dom, come follow me, he said, heading toward that house. When they reached the 2nd floor, they broke down the door and aimed their weapons. Dom, force the door. He obediently forced it open. Dom, are you alone? He asked, speaking in her language. She nodded. Dom, that's a lie, he said, taking her to a locked bedroom and starting to search. Hold her. He began looking under the bed and then pulled out a very appealing girl. Dom, you know we could have killed her, right? He said. To the other girl Merit, I just wanted to protect her, I swear, please forgive me, she said almost in tears. Dom, sit down, he said, motioning for them to sit in an armchair. I want hot water. Then he noticed Issei still standing with his weapon ready to fire. Put the gun down, you're making me nervous. He obeyed and sat on a sofa. Come here, he said, calling to the girl. What's your name? Yame Yakana, she said, looking at the man with disdain. Issei realized her last name was Japanese. Issei, wait, you're Japanese? She was surprised to see that he also spoke Japanese. Yame, hi Dom here, he said, handing her some eggs he had in a box. She understood what he wanted and went to the kitchen. Then Issei heard the drunken soldiers firing shots into the sky, and those playing the piano threw a grenade inside it, then ran away as the piano exploded. Dom, get out of there if you don't want to end up full of bullets. He moved aside and went to an electric guitar. He started to sing and play. When it was over, Yame looked at him with admiration. Dom, not bad kid, you've got talent, he said as he watched them bring in the hot water and took off his shirt. Issei, thanks. Outside with the others, Ford asked. How is it, Luis? Luis replied, pretty good. Ford continued, oh yeah, as he unbuttoned his breeds. Jason added, I hope they get scabies. Back with Issei, Dom said, she's a pure and clean girl. If you don't take her to that bedroom, I will. Issei took her by the wrist and led her to the bedroom. His cousin was about to stop them, but Dom held her back. Dom, they're young, let them be. Resigned, she continued cooking inside the room. Issei said, you know I don't want to do this. Yame remained silent. Issei continued, so forgive me, as he leaned in to kiss her. Not with lust but with tenderness. This surprised her and she returned the kiss. They were both so excited that they lost track of time and didn't come out for half an hour. When they emerged, they were smiling with no regrets about what they had done. Issei wore a smile as he sat next to his captain. Dom, don't say a single word, he said with a grin. Merit watched them while smoking a cigarette, and Yame said nothing. She simply served Issei and sat beside him. They were about to start eating when Issei report. Luis said, Issei, it's time for you to man up. There's a girl down there who looks like a model. But he noticed how they were looking at him, and Ford realized something too. Hey, wait, you and her. Ford, Issei, little devil, what did you do? Did you sleep with her? He didn't say anything and drank some water. Ford, she's really cute, you have to share. Luis, yeah, you should share that beauty. Ford continued, that's how friends are. You sleep with her and I'll sleep with her. Why is your lip trembling? Don't be nervous, we're just going to have a good time. Let her go, Ford. Let her go. Just by sleeping with her you're already a man, if you're a man, baby, he said, passing him a bottle of whiskey. Issei took the bottle and downed it all. Happy now? Luis laughed. Ooh, who you got humiliated, huh? Ford, just for doing that. You're not a man. Ugh. He received a punch in the stomach and was thrown against a wall. Ford, what the hell was that? Ugh. Dom, I wouldn't mess with the kid if I were you. Ford, why are you telling me that now? He said, out of breath and standing up. Dom, well, you should know that he took out one of the 10 biggest mafias in Japan all by himself. Ford, you're joking, right? Dom, nope, in fact he was the one who threw you. And that's the end of the 4 Issei's past. Ford, seriously, that kid? Dom, didn't you hear the rumors? You'd better not touch the girl or you'll lose all your teeth. And I'm not saying that for my sake but for his, he said, pointing to Issei. Luis, I thought it was just a story. Dom, if the rumors are true, better sit down, it's time to eat, he said as he saw Yame's cousin entering with some plates. So they sat down. Yame went to get her plate but Ford accidentally knocked her food over. Ford, oh, let me pick that up, he said, lifting his plate and liking his fried egg. Don't touch it, he said, raising his hands. Then Yame started to cry. Seeing this, Issei stood up, gave her his plate, hugged her and sat her on his lap. Dom, aren't you going to eat, kid? No thanks, I've lost my appetite. Dom, I mean, this dinner isn't going to be ruined by you or anyone, he said, pointing at everyone in his squad. Ford, no. Luis, no sir. Jason, not me either. Luis, they were going to eat like kings and we weren't going to let them try. I wonder why. Then no one answered. Luis, you know what, Issei, I'm going to tell you a story. When we got here it was a massacre. We saw many of our comrades die as soon as we arrived, and then we cornered some Taliban and killed them mercilessly. There were many horses injured from dawn to dusk. You know how to kill one. First you pet it until it becomes your friend, then you shoot it in the spine. The scream they make stays etched in your memory. And it was summer. There was a huge swarm of flies that looked like clouds, he said, finishing the story. Dom, yeah, great for a meal, thanks. Ford, that's what happened. Dom, what's done is done, and sitting here playing house with some Afghan girls isn't going to solve anything, he said, annoyed. Dom, shut up. Ford, why should I? Jason, you shouldn't. Dom was about to say something but Issei spoke up. Issei, good story, let me tell one of mine. This happened Not long ago when I went to take out a mafia I had to eliminate them since they were involved in several crimes. I went in and killed several of them. I found several women who had been exploited against their will and a lot of drags, but the worst came when I reached their basement. I went in and saw several bodies of dismembered children. Some were hanged, none were alive. I didn't get there in time and I realized that sometimes I wouldn't be able to save everyone. He said this with a broken voice, tears streaming down his face. Everyone fell silent, impacted by his story as he spoke with sadness and guilt. Sergeant Dom, shouted a soldier bursting in. The general requests you immediately. Dom? All right guys, we have to go, he said, standing up and leaving the room. Issei was saying goodbye to Yame. Ford, come on, they're talking about their wedding. Move it, he said, grabbing Issei by the neck to pull him out of the room. 10 minutes later Dom asked, what am I going to face? G. Brown replied, reconnaissance planes spotted a troop mobilization advancing from the west, he said, pointing to the map. The battalion needs you to protect this crossroads, he said, marking the target. Dom, how many troops have you seen? G. Brown, I don't know. Dom, what kind of troops? Tanks, horses, artillery? Brown, I hope I can help you. They shot him and took off just to scare a colonel, he said, looking at Dom. All the tanks are in Nimraz. Here we have about 1,000 cooks, mechanics, and doctors. If those Taliban attack us, it will be a massacre. It's just you guys. You need to get to the crossroads as soon as possible. Take the position. Don't stop for anything. Take my fuel. If those troops get past you, they'll reach our supplies and will be ruined along with all our efforts and progress. Dom, understood, sir. We'll be on our way. Scene change. Issei was holding a gas can. Issei, is it gasoline? Luis, let's find out. Open it, he urged Issei to open the can if it's good. Suddenly several bombs began to fall and all the soldiers quickly took cover. Issei ducked under a tank. Then they heard the last attack hit a house. Are you okay? Yes, we're fine. Dom, are you okay? Ford, yes. Luis, thanks to the Taliban for that. Issei emerged and saw something that shocked him. The house where Yame was had been destroyed. Issei, no, 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 no. Yumi, he shouted, running toward the ruined house to start clearing the debris. Luis, Issei, come back here. Ford, I'll handle this. Issei kept removing bricks until Ford grabbed him by the neck with force. Ford, you were going to marry her. Tell me you're sorry. Do you understand? This is war. Issei, no, he said, his voice breaking, but then a scream was heard. Issei. Came Yame's voice from beneath a collapsed wall. Hearing that, Issei elbowed Ford and rushed toward the sound. Issei, help. Help me. But everyone just laughed at him as if to say, poor naive fool. Frustrated, Issei began to lift the wall by himself, but he couldn't budge it. Jason, hey Dom, say something. Dom, let him figure it out himself, he said, stepping into the tank to watch from there. Yame, Issei, the girl cried, crushed, and thinking she was going to die. Issei could only cry in helplessness, unable to save his beloved until Beast adaptation. Issei, what he said, looking around. The others looked at him strangely as if he were crazy. Beast adaptation 10%. The voice echoed again, a sound only Issei could hear. Then Issei repeated what the voice said. Issei, beast adaptation 10%, he thought, and then he began to lift the fallen wall little by little. Everyone watched in astonishment. Slowly but surely he raised the wall until he saw Yame. He grabbed her by the wrist and pulled her out quickly, then let the wall fall as he collapsed from exhaustion. End of chapter. Issei, nearly unconscious, used all his strength to reach Yame, who was unconscious. He carried her in a bridal style and started walking toward General Brown. Issei, please take her to the Japanese embassy, I beg you. She has no business here, he said with difficulty. General Brown, I promise you kid, she'll get there, don't worry, she's in good hands, he said as he took the girl. Then Issei walked toward the tank. His squad mates watched him closely and he opened the hatch and climbed in. Once he was in his seat, he collapsed unconscious. Then the tanks began to move. After a few kilometers, Issei woke up. Luis, good morning, sleepyhead, how are you? Issei didn't say anything and climbed out of his hatch. Dom, Issei, come here son, get some fresh air. Issei walked over to his sergeant's position. 15 minutes passed and no one said a word. Dom, I started taking out Taliban from Kandahar and kept going until I got here. See that, he said, pointing to a huge cloud of smoke. That's an entire city in flames. You know what you did earlier isn't normal. I have to admit I was surprised to see you lift that wall. Issei, really Dom, seriously, I've never seen anything like it in my life. You know Issei, you have something that many don't: perseverance, nobility, justice, courage, valor, and much more. You might change this world just by being you kid. Issei just smiled. Dom, that's all I wanted to say. Get back to your post before you catch a bullet, he said teasingly. Feeling more motivated, he went back to his place. 1 hour later, the tanks advanced along the road, all the sergeants outside their hatches until One tank was completely destroyed. Dom Diamanit, he said, then communicated with all the tanks. Attention, all tanks retreat immediately, there's a hidden tank. He said, reversing onto a barren piece of land. All the tanks began to move backward, almost colliding with some trees. Then they stopped. Dom, all right, everyone advance and fire at that pile of hay. Following orders, they began shooting at the haystacks until one hit. Dom, shoot at that one. Another tank was destroyed. Diamanit, they hit Peterson. Said the other sergeant. Dom, keep firing, don't hold back. They all started shooting mercilessly for about 5 minutes, but they couldn't destroy it. Dom Diamanit, how armored is that thing? Boom. Diamanit, they hit Brandon. He said, looking at the destroyed tank. Dom, we can't hold out much longer. Dom, go right and I'll go left, let's find a weakness, he said over the radio to his partner. They started moving from different sides, constantly firing. Then the turret of the enemy tank began to turn to the right. Dom, do something while I distract it, but be quick, I don't think I can hold out much longer. Said the last sergeant in the tank. Dom, I'm on it. Issei, sergeant, shoot at the engine. Dom, Jason, aim for the engine now. He said firmly. Dom, I can't hold out much longer. Said his partner. Dom, just hold on a little longer. Rock. Do 'em. Eh. He exclaimed as the enemy fire struck his tank, completely destroying it and killing the entire crew inside. Dom stood in shock, having witnessed the devastation of his friend's tank. Jason, keep firing. Dom shouted. Just then the enemy tank began to turn its turret to the left. Him in it. Ford, reload, reload. Jason yelled, reloading. Ford responded, fire. Jason commanded, aiming for the tank's engine, which immediately burst into flames. They could see the enemy crew scrambling to escape, but then Dom emerged with his weapon and opened fire, unaware that his sergeant had come out with a pistol ready to retaliate. It was clear that the enemy was shot down, lying there in disarray. Everyone watched as Issei stepped out with his weapon and fired. Finally, it's over. Too bad the others didn't share the same fate. Dom said, man, God wasn't on our side today. Jason breathed. Yeah, and what about the others who didn't have our luck? Ford added, God's protection. Luis chimed in, laughing. Maybe that was it, Ford replied, chuckling. Did you see how Issei took care of his sergeant? That was incredible, Jason remarked. Yeah, you took out that guy, well done, Issei. Luis said excitedly, good job, Ford added, him, and that was the best work I've ever done. Luis said, the best, Jason agreed. The best work, Issei echoed. The best work I've ever done, Ford said. The best. Dom laughed, then everyone relaxed for a moment. All right, Luis, let's get out of here, we have a job to do. Dom said. Luis started to move forward. 30 minutes later, look, there it is. Dom said, pointing to a crossing that resembled a barn nearby. As they approached, an explosion suddenly rang out, alerting everyone. In it, another tank. Jason exclaimed. Luis realized he could no longer advance. Calm down, we just stepped on a mine. Dom reassured them. Everyone stepped outside. Can it be repaired, Ford? Dom asked. Yeah, unless you brought a giant crane with you, Ford replied sarcastically. This thing is beyond repair. Whatever, Ford and Issei, go check if there are any enemies in the barn. Dom instructed. Ford and Issei headed to the barn to investigate. Then what a smell, Ford said as he entered and saw the remains of fallen enemies. Issei followed him in, quickly covering his nose. They probably left them to die so they wouldn't have to waste medicine on them, Ford remarked. Can we leave now? Issei said coldly. You know, Issei, I was wrong about you. You're a better man than any of us could ever be. I'm sorry for how I treated you until now, Ford said, lighting a cigarette. No problem, Issei replied. Thanks for forgiving me. Let's head back to the tank, Ford said. They returned. So what did you find? Dom asked. Nothing but bodies and a few rounds of ammunition and weapons, Ford replied. All right, guys, Jason, Ford and Luis, go grab the ammo and weapons. Issei, keep watch on that hill, Dom ordered. Can I take my canteen? Issei asked. Of course you can, kid. Dom replied. 10 minutes later, Issei could be seen with his canteen and his weapon, an M4A1. He sat by a nearby tree and pulled a chocolate bar from his pocket, starting to eat it. When he finished, he heard a noise that put him on high alert. He quickly got up and moved away. Before anyone could see him, 5 minutes later, Issei appeared, agitated, and began to shout, Hey, why, they're coming. What happened, Issei? Why aren't you at your post? Dom asked. They're coming. Issei shouted. Who's coming? Dom pressed. The enemy. Issei replied. How many did you see? Dom asked. About 150 or 200, Issei said. Sure, just a couple of idiots marching along, Ford scoffed. No, they sounded like they wanted to fight. I think they were singing some kind of war song, Issei insisted. Everyone fell silent. It's the enemy, a battalion, Dom said. What? We need to get out of here. Issei, grab your stuff, we're leaving. Ford urged. No, we'll stop them, Dom declared. What are you saying, Dom? Have you lost your mind? We can't take them on, there are too many. Ford exclaimed. Of course we can, we have a tank. Dom insisted. You're crazy, Ford replied. Dom looked at his crew and saw fear in their eyes but not in Issei's. Go guys, I'll hold them off, get out of here, he said calmly. No, I'm not leaving. If this is the only way to stop them, I'll do it, Issei said firmly. This gave Jason and Luis courage, and they decided to stay as well. Ford looked at them in horror, thinking they had all gone mad, but with resignation he stayed. All right, what's the plan? It doesn't matter if we run or not. They'll kill us anyway, Ford said. Issei set some traps, Dom instructed. Issei grinned toothily. Get the gas tank from the tank, and Ford help me with some boards and nails, he said. 15 minutes later everyone was inside the tank. All right, we just have to wait, Issei said. Then Dom found a bottle of whiskey. Why don't we get drunk? We won't be here to tell the tale anyway, he suggested, starting to drink. Pass it here, Jason said. What the hell are you doing? Ford asked. I'm going to drink it, and I don't care what my beliefs about drinking are, I deserve it today, Jason said, taking a big swig. Yeah, you're right, Luis said, taking a drink from the bottle. They continued like this until the bottle was empty. Then they heard a war song playing. Get ready, they're coming. Dom warned. Everyone took their positions. At my signal, start firing. Dom ordered. The battalion halted and the commander gave the order to check the tank as it looked destroyed, but they didn't want any survivors. When they opened the hatch, Dom shot, killing the commander instantly. Then everyone began firing from side to side. The enemy didn't know what to do. Some threw themselves to the side of the road where there was a bit of stagnant water. Others hid behind their fallen comrades, and some took cover in the barn. Very bad decision to go in there, Dom remarked. Then Jason aimed the tank's turret at the barn. In the middle of the barn they could see a gas tank. The enemy was paralyzed, wanting to flee, but then, we'll see you in hell, Jason said as he fired. The barn was almost completely destroyed. The enemy near the stagnant water smelled something off. One of them took a deep breath and recognized the scent. Suddenly a flaming bottle flew out of one of the tank's hatches, and everyone watched it in slow motion. It hit the ground, shattering into pieces, spreading fire, and the stagnant water was nothing less than gasoline. The enemy began to scream in agony as they were engulfed in flames. 5 minutes passed and the enemy with a bazooka positioned themselves behind the tank and fired. They hit Ford in the shoulder. Ford, Jason shouted. Translation: no curse, he said, crying for his deceased friend. Then they realized they were running out of bullets. Jason made an excuse to get out of the tank and went to fetch more ammunition. As he entered the armory and was returning to the tank, he was ambushed by a Taliban fighter. They struggled until Issei arrived and killed the attacker. Are you waiting for something? Let's get back to the tank, Issei shouted. They returned to the tank where Luis was throwing grenade after grenade. Issei was busy reloading the machine gun when Luis stepped out and was shot in the shoulder, causing a grenade to fall inside the tank. In a quick motion he grabbed the grenade and pressed it to his chest. Just before boom, Luis was gone. Issei looked on, filled with helplessness, unable to do anything. He continued firing. 5 minutes passed and Dom ran out of bullets, so he stepped outside to shoot with the machine gun. From there he started firing at the enemy, hurling insults in their language. Jason, give me some grenades, Dom shouted. Yeah, just a second, Jason replied, but as he was about to exit the tank he was shot in the head, collapsing next to his fallen comrade. Ford, Dom continued firing in anger and frustration, but a Taliban sniper hiding behind a corpse shot him in the left lung. Stunned by the shot, he tried to get back into the tank. Once inside he attempted to close the hatch but was hit in the right shoulder by another bullet. Still he managed to shut the hatch and collapsed, drained of strength. Issei watched this in fear. For the first time in years, Sergeant, Issei called. Yes, kid, Dom replied. I'm scared. I am too, kid, I am too. Minute, I don't know what to do. I surrender. No, please don't do that. If you do they'll torture you painfully and then kill you. Then what should I do? If you see the hatch under your seat. Yes, I see it, he said, trembling. Good, I want you to get out of here. Then they saw the Taliban open Dom's hatch, but he shot at them with his pistol and killed one. However, they opened it again and threw in 2 grenades. This time, get out, Dom shouted. Issei quickly opened the hatch and escaped through it, and they heard the 2 grenades explode. Issei quickly buried himself in the sand and fainted. The next day the sound of a horse could be heard passing by. Issei quickly got up and re-entered the tank. He saw that all his comrades were dead. He went to his sergeant, who still had his eyes open. He covered him with his jacket and closed his eyes. Then he began to cry, tear after tear, as if he were in sync with every passing second. He removed the dog tags from their necks and put them around his own. Then he heard someone trying to open the hatch. Without thinking, he grabbed the sergeant's pistol and aimed at the hatch, ready to defend himself. "Easy, kid," a soldier from the US said, seeing that it was one of his own. Issei calmed down. "Hey, there's one alive," the soldier shouted, calling his comrades over. Issei was carefully pulled out of the tank. "You're a hero, kid, you know that," the soldier said. Then the medics began to take him to their emergency vehicle, and as they passed by, the soldiers told him he was a hero. He saw himself enter the vehicle and the doors close while he watched them shut the hatch of the tank. Many soldiers passed by him, indicating they were heading into combat. Issei could only shed tears. Tears he never thought he would have again. Although he had killed and tortured, he never understood what war truly was. War was suffering, sadness, anger, ambition, greed, avarice, revenge, and much more. At that moment he became something no child should ever be at his age. And that's the end of the end. Season 2/6, narrated by Daichi. When Shin slowly woke up in California, San Francisco, we thought we would never see him again. We desperately searched for his whereabouts but found nothing. If he hadn't been taught how to hide so well, we wouldn't be in this situation. He even bribed the entire school so that no one would reveal his location, not even with our political power as the Knights of the Apocalypse. Could we do anything more? And they told us to come back in a few months to find out where he had gone. When we finally learned where he was, I was furious to find out he was in Texas, Houston. I swore that when I saw him face to face, I would give him a beating that even the devil himself would pity him, for we had to speed to Texas in our cars, requesting permission to miss a few days so there wouldn't be any issues with school. It only took us 2 days to arrive. This time we searched on foot. Only Bakugo drove that day, and sometimes I regret not taking my car, because it almost cost my friend his life. I still remember when we finally found him. End of narration. Daichi and the others could be seen searching for Shin, as they had been told he was seen in that quiet neighborhood. "Where do you think he is?" Daichi asked. "I don't know, but a contact of mine said he saw him around here about 3 days ago," Izuku replied. "When I see him, I'll give him a good punch for leaving without saying anything," Bakugo declared. "I agree with you," Denki chimed in, supporting Bakugo. They walked along a calm path when suddenly they spotted him just a few meters away, wearing a black jacket with a hood covering his face. They were overjoyed to see their friend, but then they saw him start to run toward them. Everyone thought he was coming to them, but then they all watched in horror as a truck suddenly came out of an alley and struck their friend, sending him crashing into a wooden fence and breaking it. Upon impact, they screamed his name in terror, "Shin." They rushed over to check on him. "Get the car, quick," Daichi shouted to Bakugo, who then took off running. "Hang in there, buddy, you're going to be okay." But he saw BLD oozing from Shin's head, his hands stained with his friend's BLD. Bakugo quickly parked in front of them, and Daichi carefully helped Shin into the car. "I'll see you at the hospital. I'll let you know which one we're," he said, flooring the gas. 5 minutes later they arrived at the hospital. Daichi jumped out and carried Shin in a bridal style, rushing into the hospital. "We need a doctor," he yelled. A nurse quickly attended to them. "What happened?" she asked as she checked Shin. "He was hit by a truck," Daichi replied, worry etched on his face. "He's losing a lot of BLD. A stretcher. We're taking him to emergency." He tried to follow them, but a nurse stopped him. 1 month later, Shin was seen in a hospital bed, slowly opening his eyes. Where am I?" he asked. "You're in the hospital in San Francisco, California, kid," the doctor said, checking his heart rate. He looked ahead and saw Bakugo and Tokoyami sitting in chairs asleep. "You have good friends. They've been visiting you in shifts, sometimes a blue-haired guy or another with green hair and many more," the nurse said. Shin noticed their dark circles, evidence of hours without sleep. He said nothing and fell back asleep. When he woke up, he saw Daichi standing by the window, arms crossed with the wind blowing in his face. Realizing this, he spoke. "You're awake," Daichi said, approaching him. Shin simply lowered his head in embarrassment. Daichi sat on the bed and hugged him. "I'm glad you're okay. I thought you'd never wake up," he said, his voice breaking. "Please, don't do that again. Don't disappear. Don't worry us like that. You have no idea how many sleepless nights we had, just to make sure you were okay." Shin couldn't take it anymore and began to sob like a younger brother who had committed a mischief, with the older brother comforting him, and he started to apologize countless times. Daichi just held him and let him vent. End of flashback. "That's what happened," Shin said. Issei fell silent for a moment before suddenly giving him a light slap. "Being this worried is reason enough for me to kick you out of the Knights of the Apocalypse," he said, making Shin lower his head. "But on the other hand, I see the need to keep you. I'll forgive you if you just invite me for a few pizzas." He added with a smile. Everyone just smiled at how Issei could be with the others. Then Shin ordered a few pizzas. They left the pizzeria and headed to the mall to grab drinks and snacks. 1 hour later the Grammary group could be seen entering the Hayato house, but they heard voices coming from Issei's room. They walked in that direction and opened the door, slightly surprised by what they saw. They saw many boys there, with Issei playing FIFA with another boy. The blue-haired guy they had met was singing a song that echoed around them while everyone else was dancing to the rhythm of the music. Issei shouted, "Jimenez! Hit him! Go!" Bakugo chimed in, "Shine!" Issei laughed, "I'm still undefeated." As he excitedly popped open a beer, the Grammary girls decided to step away to avoid interrupting anything. The next day, Issei could be seen with a bucket of fried chicken on his head, recovering from an intense hangover. He noticed 6 women beside him, and he was only wearing his breathes. Looking around, he spotted Daichi on a jet ski in the pool holding a girl in his arms. Denki was sprawled out with a girl on top of him. Bakugo was inside a convertible with 3 women. Shin was lounging on a sofa with 4 women. Ito was in the kitchen with a couple of women by his side. "Wait, what? This was not my house." Issei, "Drake, can you hear me?" "Yes, kid, I can hear you." "What happened?" "Well, after you drank that last beer you pulled out some golden apple wine. The only thing that can get a dragon drunk." "That's right, you gave some to them, and after that they rented this mansion and threw a party?" "And the others?" "The others are upstairs." Issei went up to the 2nd floor and opened the master bedroom, where he saw Izuku surrounded by 5 women. "Izuku, stud." He searched for Shoto and found him wearing glasses with paint on his face that read, "Winter," alongside 2 women. Then he went to look for Tokoyami, Kirishima and Shinso. He found them sprawled out on the lawn with 2 women beside them. "All right, I found them, I'm thirsty." He headed to the fridge and out came a frozen butler. "What the hell?" Hayato residence. A redhead woke up in her bed, her hair a mess. For some reason she felt cheerful, having not slept like that in months, but what puzzled her was why she was naked and sweaty. Shaking off those thoughts, she took a shower since she had classes. Season 2 7 Issei could be seen waking Daichi up with a ping-pong ball, throwing it at Daichi's head, which startled him and knocked him off the jet ski. Issei returned to the house and saw Shin deeply asleep. Wow, he got over it quickly. "I don't think so. While he's strong in almost every way, he's not when it comes to emotions. And weren't you like that? That was a different me from years ago. When I lost my memory, I also lost my mental strength, so that explains it." "Maybe you're right. Albion, do you know something Drake told me a while ago, something called the Dragon's Fall ritual or something like that?" he asked seriously. "Yes, I know it, but why do you want to know?" "I want to understand what the ritual involves." "The ritual is performed when a dragon is rejected, abandoned, or betrayed by their partners. It takes away the emotions they had with them, both appealing and painful moments. For 100 years they won't feel anything for anyone." "Wow, that's tragic." "Indeed, dragons, being pure power with equally pure feelings, can become stronger like in your case, but if we're deceived by our partners, that power turns into poison. It's a double-edged sword." "Can it be done on humans?" "You mean the larvae, right?" "Exactly. I want to at least help him stop suffering from what happened." "It's never been attempted," the dragon said, but it could be modified to the point where he no longer feels those tormenting emotions. But if those who hurt him come back, the ritual won't prevent him from falling in love with them again. So it takes away the emotions tied to those memories and he won't feel anything for them. But if they return and win him over again, it can't be avoided." "That's right. Could you make the ritual change?" "Unfortunately no, but there's a sorceress who might be able to." "Who is she?" "She's Merlin's apprentice. Her name is Serica Arphonia." "What's she like and where is she?" Drake chimed in. "It's her." As the booster gear glove appeared showing an image, "She's at a magic institute in England called Melgalius Academy." "Ooh, and how long have you been listening to our conversation?" "Since the beginning." "Then why didn't you respond when I called you?" "I was sleeping." "You little," Albion interrupted. "You can argue later, your friends are coming." Izuku, Shoto, Bakugo and Ida approached. "What a potent wine, I'm never drinking that again," Izuku said. "Now that was a party," Daichi added as he walked through the door. "And what about the women who woke up here? They didn't do anything to them, right?" Izuku, Shoto and Ida averted their gazes. "Seriously, don't blame us, that wine was too good," Izuku replied. "But don't look at us like that." Shin did it too, Shoto added. "That kid makes me proud, but enough of that, we need to clean up and put everything back the way it was." "By the way, how did you get a convertible into the living room?" he asked, pointing at the car. "That was Bakugo. I don't understand how he did it with such small doors," Ida said. "Bakugo, you brought it in, so you take it out." You've got to be kidding me, wake the others up. He was interrupted when his phone rang. Yes, who's this? He said discreetly as it was a magical communication circle. Issei, it's me, Razor. What's up, my friend? He replied calmly. You need to come to the Citri hospital, they'll give us Ravel's diagram in an hour. I'll be there, you can count on it, he said seriously before hanging up. Alright, let's get started. 1 hour later, everything was in order as if nothing had happened. How did you manage to get the car out? Ida asked doubtfully. Well, I asked Issei for help and we went to the security cameras. We discovered that I brought it in through the entrance, Bakugo explained. Where are Issei and Daichi? Kirishima asked. He told me to leave since they went to do something else. Tokoyami replied they left without saying anything. Scene change. Citri Hospital. The Phoenix family along with Issei and Daichi were in a hospital room where Ravel lay in bed connected to several medical devices. The doctor entered. Well, Lord and Lady Phoenix, what I'm about to tell you is serious. What's wrong with my sister? Razor asked. This is an illness that has been present in the Phoenix family for generations. It's called Phoenix depression. What is that illness? Lord Phoenix inquired. This illness makes the sufferer feel inadequate, believing they're not enough for their current partner. If they see their partner looking at others, they think they're inadequate and try to lose weight, which leads them to lose the fire in their heart. That sounds like a psychological issue, Razor said. No, young Razor, this is real. Your great-grandmother had this illness. We thought it was psychological until we saw that treatments didn't work. It got to the point where she couldn't even stand the sight of food until she died. This worried the Phoenix family. So what do you recommend we do? Lady Phoenix asked. We've tried to find a cure, but we've only seen that Dragon BLD works as it has a component that reignites the flames the user has lost. But you have that BLD, right? Lord Phoenix asked, his voice trembling. Unfortunately, no. As Mr. Tannen didn't allow us to extract it, but you can get it, can't you? Unfortunately not, as Ravel severed all ties with the dragons when she insulted Tannen, Razor said, lowering his head to hide the tears forming in his eyes. Then I'm very sorry, we can't do anything. You should start saying goodbye to her. She won't last long in her current state. At most she has 2 weeks left to live. Tears formed in the eyes of both patriarchs out of frustration and desperation for being unable to do anything while the doctor walked toward the exit until, this is my fault. This isn't your fault, Issei. Of course it is. If I hadn't looked at others with longing, she wouldn't be in this situation, he said, punching the wall. Hey doc, it doesn't matter what dragon it comes from. No, it just has to be Dragon BLD. Mine will work. What are you saying, Issei? You don't owe her anything anymore. Why are you doing this? Because I'm responsible and I need to own up to it, he said, looking Razor in the eyes. Razor saw something in Issei's eyes. He saw that he still loved his sister. He had heard that dragons are beings of pure feelings, and now he saw that it was true. 8. The kidnapping. Are you sure, kid? The process is painful and it doesn't matter. I accept the responsibility. Alright, I'll bring everything needed to extract the BLD, the doctor said as he left the room. Are you sure, Issei? We know it still hurts you that she left you, Lord Phoenix said. It's better than watching her die, Issei replied seriously. Then the doctor and a nurse entered. Alright, kid, what you need to do is take off your shirt so the BLD can be extracted from your back. He nodded and proceeded to take off his jacket and shirt, handing them to Daichi. It was clear that Issei's back had an unusual shape, not a tattoo but the result of his muscles. He placed his hands on the wall for the BLD to be extracted. Everyone was surprised to see this except Daichi, but they set that aside for later since they needed to perform the BLD transfer. The doctor and the nurse began to chant a ritual. You who remove that fame from within you, who can restore life today, we offer you this BLD from the being who is the strongest in the world so that you may return the flames you have lost, they said, watching as small tubes covered in magic appeared with a needle at each, and it pierced Issei's back and Ravel's forearm. You could see how the BLD was being drawn from Issei, who had a pained expression as he gripped the wall tightly. 5 minutes passed, and suddenly the BLD stopped flowing in the tube and disappeared. Issei fell to his knees exhausted. And Ravel slowly began to open her eyes. She looked around and saw her parents gazing at her with watery eyes, and her brother was no different. Dad, Mom, brother, what are you doing here? They couldn't hold back and embraced her, tears in their eyes. Ravel, what's wrong with you? She said, confused and struggling to speak until she saw a certain chestnut-haired boy being treated by a blue-haired guy. And what are you doing here, you creep? She exclaimed angrily. Issei said nothing and simply put on his shirt and jacket. See you, Lord and Lady Phoenix, he said as he left the hospital with Daichi. Everyone in the room was upset with her for treating her savior that way. They were about to reprimand her, but the doctor interrupted. Doctor, before you argue, I need to do some checks on the young lady. If you could kindly step outside, please. They performed the checkup and found that everything was fine and she was recovering quickly. After that, Ravel's parents entered. Ravel's mother, visibly upset, slapped her daughter. Surprised by the act, she held her cheek. Lady Phoenix, how dare you speak to the person who saved your life like that? Ravel, you mean the creep who only wanted my body? He can rot for all I care. Then she received another slap, this time from her father. Lord Phoenix, shut up. You know nothing about him. Ravel, if that person, as you say, were to rot in 2 weeks, you would. He couldn't finish the last part due to how difficult it was. Razor, did. Ravel was shocked by what her brother said. Ravel, but it wasn't that serious, was it? She said, fear creeping into her voice. Then they told her about the Phoenix's fall and how she only had 2 weeks left to live. Ravel, so what was the cure? Lord Phoenix, the BLD of a dragon. Razor, but you broke all ties with dragons. Tannin would refuse to give you the BLD you needed. Issei blamed himself for everything and offered to give you the BLD you needed. He saved your life, he said while leaning against a wall. Ravel began to sob, realizing she had said horrible things to the person who saved her life. Ravel, what have I done? She said, realizing she was becoming a terrible person. Meanwhile, with Issei and Daichi could be seen walking through the streets of Kuoh. Daichi, aren't you upset by what she said? No, honestly. It reminds me of her, he said with nostalgia. Daichi, you mean? Yes, AKO. They walked for a few minutes until they reached their home. They quickly changed and headed to the academy. At the entrance, they saw a girl with a noticeable baby bump, and Issei approached her. Issei, hi, he said, greeting the girl. Girl, hi, she replied uncertainly. Issei, what brings you here? Girl, my sister said my boyfriend would be here, she said, looking at her phone. Issei, oh, so he's the father of the child you're expecting? Girl, yes, she said, embarrassed. Just then she saw Akino coming with her boyfriend, and the girl looked where Issei had been looking and spotted her boyfriend at the entrance. Yamiko, what are we doing here? Akeno-ken. Girl, Yamiko-ken, she said, walking over to him. The boy sighed and turned to look at her. Yamiko, what are you doing here? Shuku, I came because I was told you were here and they were right, she said with a smile. Yamiko, and here I am. So what do you want? Shuku, I came because he needs you. I need you, she said, caressing her belly. Yamiko, I already told you I'm not taking responsibility for that child. Besides, who said it was mine? Shuku, you're the only one I've been with, so don't say it's not yours, she said, tears in her eyes. Yamiko, and what does it matter if it is mine? I care little about what happens to you and that child. I can sleep with whoever I want, he said mockingly. The girl began to cry. Yamiko, besides, look at you, you're overweight. Do you think anyone will want you with a child? Ha! He laughed cruelly. Akino was about to slap him and break up with him right then as he pretended to be a good person, but then someone punched him in the stomach, making him gasp for air. Issei, keep opening your mouth and I'll make you regret it, he said with an impressive presence, so much so that some fainted. But then a teacher appeared. Teacher, hey, you can't fight at school. Then Issei grabbed Yamiko and threw him out of the institute. Issei, problem solved. Yamiko got up with difficulty and tried to punch him, but Issei caught his fist and struck him in the eyes with his fingers. Yamiko was temporarily blinded, and that's when his nightmare began. Issei whispered in his ear, I grant you the true door to suffering, and then punched his ribs. The boy couldn't do anything against this, but his senses betrayed him as he heard Issei's voice in both ears and didn't know where he was. He was hit again, this time in the back. Seconds passed, which felt like hours to him, and he was struck on the head. Yamiko. A whisper echoed in each ear at once. He started to panic because he couldn't see his opponent, let alone feel him. Then he was hit in the neck, causing him to writhe in pain. Issei, have you realized yet, you fool? He said to confuse the boy. I attack every 10 seconds, he said, distorting his voice again, and he began to count the seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's coming, he said, scared and trembling. Then he was kicked in the abdomen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's coming, he said, curling up in a fetal position, and then received a kick to the ribs. Issei, this time let's make it more fun, he said maliciously, just in 3 seconds. Then Yamiko started to count. Those watching were left dumbfounded. They never thought Issei would be like this, and they promised not to bother him again. This was more than a massacre. The boy was practically paralyzed with fear because of what Issei was doing. Yamiko, he's coming, he shouted in fear, but was silenced by a kick to the face. Please, enough, he said, raising his hands. I beg you, he cried. Issei, Sometimes waiting can be hell when we want someone to be there. I want you to get out of here, and if I see you here again I won't be so merciful. Is that clear? He said in a deep voice, and that's the end of the chapter. And well, here's another. I hope you enjoy it. After Issei gave Akino's ex-boyfriend a serious talking to, Akino broke up with him, which made Yamako's pride hit rock bottom with Issei. Hey, take it easy, he can't hurt your baby, he said affectionately to Akino. But she started to protest. He won't do anything, just relax. If you want help, take this, he said, handing her a paper card. After that he left the place and entered the school. Everyone looked at him with curiosity as if he were some kind of phenomenon, but then several cars could be heard approaching. Seriously, could they be any louder? He said. Annoyed. Luxury cars pulled up and parked. From those cars emerged Daichi, Izuku, Bakugo, Todoroki, Ida, Kirishima, Kaminari, Tokoyami, Shinso, and Shin. All of them were wearing the Kuoh Academy uniform. Issei looked at them with a playful expression, crossing his arms. The sexiest and most handsome one has arrived, Kaminari teased. You'll dream of a steroid pineapple, Bakugo shot back. Ida, who was drinking a soda, spat the entire drink to the side. I was just being sarcastic, it wasn't that serious, man, Kaminari said in a hushed tone. His mood dampened. After that everyone gathered around Issei. So what do you think, brother? We're all here now, Daichi said. You're all making too much noise, Issei replied, still with that playful expression. Everyone broke out in a cold sweat at his attitude. All right, go register. And you, Daichi, go to class, he said seriously. This made everyone feel a chill, and they headed to the principal's office. After that everyone was registered at the academy. That day was a challenge for Issei, since all the guys were in different classrooms and the screams from all the girls were relentless. 9 hours later students were leaving the academy. Issei and the others agreed to go eat some burgers at the mall parking lot. All right guys, today I'm treating, he said with a smile. Everyone cheered at that. Then he took Shin's keys. I'll drive, he said, getting into a McLaren. Hey, that's not fair, Shin protested. 30 minutes later the guys were sitting at a table discussing trivial things that happened in the United States. So racism is a constant there, Issei noted. That's right, they not only discriminate against people of color but also against Hispanic people, Daichi added. I see, I'll be going there in a few months. By the way, Kaminari, you're not afraid of ghosts anymore, huh? Issei teased. You know they exist, Kaminari replied, a hint of accusation in his voice. I still remember that day, Issei said, laughing as he began to reminisce. Flashback 3 years earlier the guys were in a room having a movie marathon. I'm bored of these movies. Isn't there anything else? Kaminari complained. Then don't watch them, Shinso replied. Here's one about ghosts, Kirishima suggested. That's fake, ghosts don't even exist. Kaminari scoffed. Never say they don't exist, Kaminari, Issei warned. Come on, Issei, do you really believe in that? Kaminari challenged. How much do you want to bet? Issei asked. You want to bet? Fine, if you prove they exist I'll give you my 5% stake in Mazda. Deal, Kaminari said confidently. Okay, if I lose I'll give you 20% of my shares in Tesla. Deal, Issei countered. It's a deal. Alright, what time is it? Issei asked. It's 2 o'clock. Daichi replied. Perfect, let's go. Where to? Kaminari asked, confused. To the cemetery. Come on guys. Of course, everyone exclaimed. They all went to their cars and drove off. 15 minutes later they arrived at the nearest cemetery. Everyone bundled up in coats. Here, take this, Issei said, handing Kaminari a camera and a flashlight. What's this for? Kaminari asked. To see your face when you see one, Issei replied, lighting a cigarette. Yeah, like I'm going to find anything. Well, who's coming with me? Kaminari asked, looking at the others. Don't count on me, Shinso said. Go by yourself, Bakugo added. I'm staying, it's way too cold, Ida said. I agree with Ida. Izuku and Shoto chimed in. Nah, I didn't make the bet, Shin said. Me neither, Tokoyami added. I'm not feeling it, Daichi said. Honestly, if it's this cold I'd rather go to my car, he concluded. Fine, then I'll go alone, Kaminari said, annoyed. He ventured into the cemetery. Do you think it was right to leave him alone? Daichi asked. Hey, I didn't force him to go, did I? Besides, here, Issei said, handing them a cigarette. For what? Bakugo asked. The dead are still here and we're disturbing their rest. This won't do them any harm, Issei explained quickly. Everyone took one, lit it, and started smoking. With Kaminari. Kaminari was in the middle of the cemetery with his flashlight and camera on. Believing in ghosts, what nonsense, he said as he ventured deeper into the cemetery until he was out of sight of the car lights. Hey spirits, come and take my body, he shouted mockingly. After that silence fell. Come and do things to me, he yelled, only to fall silent again. There's nothing haha, I think you owe me a few shares ha, he said laughing. He turned around having reached the end of the cemetery. As he was heading back he heard crying. He stopped and started searching for the source of the cries. He found a girl crying by a tombstone. Hey, are you okay? He shouted to the girl, but she didn't respond. The girl appeared to be dressed in white with her hair covering her face. Hey, are you lost? He shouted again, but she ignored him. Then the girl stopped her lamenting. Are your parents nearby, or where are they? He said, stepping a little closer, shining his flashlight on her. The girl turned around and looked at Kaminari with glowing eyes, then disappeared. Don't be an idiot, he yelled, running as fast as his legs could carry him. Then the cries started getting closer and closer. Hey guys, Issei, Daichi, someone with the others? How long has it been? Izuku asked. An hour, Ida replied. Then they started hearing screams. Start praying and crossing yourselves, Issei instructed. They did what Issei told them. Then they saw Kaminari pale and sweating cold. So do you believe in ghosts now? Issei asked. Why? Why? Yes, Kaminari stammered. Here, cross yourself and pray, Issei said, handing him a cigarette. And throw this on your cars, otherwise they won't start, he added, giving them small bottles of holy water. End of flashback. Haha, I still have that recording, Issei said, chuckling. And how did you know that praying and crossing yourselves would be effective with the dead? Bakugo asked. An old priest taught me that in case something like this happened. Issei replied. Just then Issei's phone started ringing and he went to answer it. And that's the end of the chapter 1. Hope you enjoy it, as I put a lot of effort into this. Without further ado, your favorite writer bids you farewell. And Issei was in the restaurant's bathroom casting a magic circle of silence before answering the call. Hello, who's this? Issei asked. Hey Issei, it's me, Ajuka, came the reply. Oh, what's up, Ajuka? We have a problem. What kind of problem? Let's just say it's a big one. I need you at Core Academy in 2 hours. Is it that serious that you're calling me directly? Did someone get kidnapped? He said mockingly. You know her, Issei, it's Rias Gremari's tower. Kaneko Tuju has been missing for a week. Issei's smile vanished, instantly replaced by a serious expression. I'll be there, you can count on it, he said before hanging up and punching the wall, breaking the magic circle. He exited the bathroom and headed back to his friends. Everything okay, Issei? Is something wrong? Daichi asked. He whispered in Daichi's ear, sharing what Ajuka had told him. Got it, we should tell the others, they could really help us. I didn't want to involve them this early, but given the gravity of the situation, I have no other choice. Hey, guys, are you done? Daichi called out. Everyone nodded in agreement. Daichi and I need to tell you something, so follow us. They all left the restaurant and headed to an abandoned warehouse. Daichi, do it. Daichi nodded and created a magic circle of silence, leaving everyone stunned. All right, I know you have questions about what just happened. Everyone nodded. What I'm about to tell you is top secret. No one can know, or it could unleash chaos across the world and potentially spark a global war. He proceeded to explain the supernatural world, the factions, what had happened years ago, and everything leading up to now. Let me see if I got this right. Issei, you lost your memory a few years ago, had a girlfriend who turned out to be a fallen and killed you. Then you were reincarnated by the demon Rias Gremari. You faced faction leaders, gods, and high-class demons, and now you have several enemies you've defeated, and you're currently the host of the White and Red Celestial Dragon. In short, Izuku summarized. That's right. And you want us to help you rescue one of your ex-girlfriends? Kaminari asked. That doesn't make much sense. If she left you, why should you save her? What's the point? You're not together anymore, Shoto pointed out. I agree with that, Shinso added. I'm sorry, Issei, but I have to agree. Why not let the noble members handle this? Ida suggested. Guys, even though we're not together anymore, a dragon's love is as strong as the dragon itself. We, or rather I, am beings of pure energy, which means our feelings are as pure as our power. To hell with that, let's go get that girl, Tokoyami declared. We'd never leave you hanging, brother, Kirishima said. Everyone agreed with Kirishima. They were going to rescue Kaneko, but you owe us some drinks after this, Shin added, and everyone supported him. I appreciate it, Issei replied, realizing that an hour and a half had already passed. They needed to hurry since they were 35 minutes away from Core Academy. 40 minutes later, all the leaders were gathered in a meeting room at the academy. So why are we here? Surzex asked. Your sister has something important to tell you, Ajuka replied. Everyone turned to look at Rias. Well, kid, what do you have to say? Odin prompted. Spit it out quickly, I have important matters to attend to, Yasaka added. Well, Rias began. It's complicated, Azazel. By the way, did you inform Issei? Ajuka, yes, but it seems he's running a few minutes late. Then everyone heard a car approaching at high speed and Stopping at the academy, demons, angels, fallen ones as guardians, and yokai prepared for an attack, but then a voice came from the car. Issei, it's okay, it's me, the Sekirai, lower your weapons, they come with me. At that moment, a magic circle appeared and Gasper emerged. Gasper, Issei senpai, why did you summon me? Issei, you arrived just in time, we have a mission. Gasper, yes. Then everyone entered and headed to the meeting room. Ajuka, alright, now that we're all here, let's begin. Rias, as you all know, I have my own nobility. Odin, get to the point, he said, already annoyed and intimidating. Rias, the point is that Kaneko has been kidnapped, and I ask for your help, she said with a bow. Yasaka, that's enough, I won't participate in this. Surzex, you need to educate your sister, calling us is for more important matters than this, said the yokai leader. Odin, I agree, I won't waste my troops just because an irresponsible girl wasn't paying attention to her nobility. Rias could only be seen with small tears in her eyes. Azazel and Michael were about to say something, but Issei, who was the last person. Kaneko was with Rias, she said she was going to meet her boyfriend, she said, intrigued. Issei, do you have a picture of him or anything? Rias, yes, I have a photo she kept in her room. Odin, come on kid, you're going to help her after what she did. Issei ignored him and went to Rias. Issei, alright. Ida projected on the wall. Ida took out a watch which then emitted a laser and copied the image, projecting it onto the wall. Issei, where have I seen you? Take away the brown eyes and give him red ones. Ida did as Issei instructed. Daichi, what are you trying to do? Issei, I've got it, elongate his face a bit and give him blonde hair. As he said this, the boy transformed into someone completely different. Then the voices of the others were heard. Kaminari, that Bizuka, why did it have to be him? Bakugo, diminute. Azazel, why did your attitude change so suddenly? Ida, that guy is not just dangerous, that boy. Then he displayed another identical photo to the modified one, but this one said, wanted. He's one of the world's most wanted criminals, sought by nearly every country. Ida concluded. Issei, but it doesn't stop there, it's not just, and that's the end of the Issei, and it doesn't stop there, he's not alone. Odin, what do you mean, kid? Issei, I'll explain in a moment, he said as he pulled out the booster gear and showed a man who looked no older than 40. Issei, he's one of the leading scientists in biochemistry known for conducting illegal experiments on humans and animals. Yasaka, but what does he have to do with Kaneko? Issei, tell me. Yasaka, a girl who is practically half cat and half human. What do you think would happen then? Yasaka realized this. Yasaka, you're not talking about Issei, that's right, an army of genetically altered humans ready to destroy any country. In just weeks they practically handed Kaneko over for their experiments, and not just her, since she's part cat, her DNA is compatible with any animal species. All they would need to do is introduce different BLD from any type of animal, and that's it. Daichi, but that would take weeks since the DNA has to be compatible with the user and not affect them. Issei, he has the technology to do it. If he figures out how to transfer animal DNA to any person, we'll be in serious trouble. This surprised several people as they had never seen Issei so serious. Issei, we need to act fast. Daichi, tell General Brown that I need that favor, he owes me. Shoto, you need to gather some supplies. Bakugo, build some explosives. Shin, can you get some 127mm weapons? The rest of you, I'll tell you on the way what you need to do, he said as he left the room. You could see Issei getting into his car and starting to call someone. Yes, who is this? Said a feminine voice. Issei, it's me. Issei, I need you to do me a favor. Meanwhile with the others, Azazel, wow, I've never seen him like this. Surzex, I think he's overreacting. Izuku, he never exaggerates when it comes to these problems. Odin, what do you want to know about Issei that we don't? Bakugo, more than you can imagine. Shoto, do you know the story of the legendary 5th Armored Regiment Aquino? I read about that in the Afghanistan War. It was the best tank regiment the United States had. They said they operated obsolete tanks, but they were still better than anyone else. However, they were defeated by a more armored and modern tank, specifically designed to take them down. The last tank standing was taken out by 200 Taliban and only one soldier survived. He was between 20 and 25 years old and took down 50 Taliban in that confrontation. Rias, but what does that have to do with Issei? Daichi, the story is wrong, he said as he pulled out some photos of a magic circle. It wasn't 50, it was 106, and it wasn't a 20-year-old soldier, he said, throwing the photos on the table. It was a 12-year-old boy. Then everyone looked at the photograph, seeing a small boy being pulled out of a tank, another where the boy posed on the tank with his comrades, and several more where he appeared. Daichi, Issei not only lived through the horrors of war, he has experienced many things since he was young, which is why we respect him so much, not just because he went through that, but because he saved us and faced death itself for us. Then he pulled out a pendant with the letters D, L, J, and F. Daichi, this pendant was made from the plates of his sergeant and comrades. He Made it to honor their memory. You may see him as a fool and kind, but you have no idea, he said as he left the room with the other boys. 11:45 p.m. You could see Issei in the living room of the Hayadu mansion sitting on a sofa holding a glass, but suddenly he threw the glass against the wall, grabbed a suitcase he had prepared and left the house. You could hear him getting into his car and starting it before driving away. Forward slash 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 forward slash. Meanwhile, in the middle of the Pacific, a naval base could be seen in a dark room. Among the many in the base, Kaneko was tied to a chair with chains suppressing her chakra and magic. The doors slowly opened. Kaneko, I brought you some food. Kaneko, go to hell. Come on Kaneko, don't be so cold. Have you forgotten the kisses you gave me a few weeks ago? Kaneko, I curse the day I met you. I curse being so foolish not to see what you really were. Ha ha, do you really think my acting can be seen so easily? You're mistaken, kitty. Only a true professional can see through it, and believe me, I'm good at it. How is our test subject doing? I think she's doing well, Mr. Oslo. That makes me happy. Kasumi, ha, people are easy to manipulate, especially when they're looking for something specific. They were about to leave when Kaneko spoke up. Kaneko, he will come, I know, he will. Kasumi, oh, you mean your beloved Sekirei? Do you think he will come after what you did to him and the others? Please, he might be with another girl right now. Too bad you abandoned him. Kaneko could only cry at the boy's words, or maybe he was right. Kaneko, come soon, Issei-senpai, she said through tears. Meanwhile, with Issei, he could be seen in a house in the woods knocking on the door, which was opened by a appealing woman with blonde hair. Oh, Issei-kun, I thought you would come in a few days. Issei, this is important. I'm here for the favor. Oh, but you know my favors aren't free. Issei, yes I know, he said resignedly. Then first payment and then the information, and that's the end of the. After giving what he promised to his agent, Issei could be seen with a blonde woman lying in bed covered only by a sheet. Yuria, you've changed a lot. Issei, I see you miss these moments, don't you? Yuria, you know you're the only one who can satisfy me. Issei, hey, it wasn't my fault, I was just following her orders. Yuria, it was a mistake. Issei, that's not what you said earlier. The blonde woman turned red upon hearing that. Issei, you look very cute like this. If you're not careful, I'll make sure you can't walk properly for a week, he whispered in her ear. Hearing that made her excited, giving a playful expression. Yuria, if you do that, I'll give you all the information you want whenever you ask for it. Issei positioned himself above her and started again. 3 hours later, the blonde woman could be seen exhausted and sweaty while Issei looked as if nothing had happened. Issei, you know I don't have much time, right? Yuria, yes I know, I'll give you that information, she said as she got out of bed, covering herself with a sheet and starting to walk, but you could see her limping with every step, which made Issei laugh a little. Issei, it's been a long time since I've been here, hasn't it? Yuria, since that incident she would be proud of you, she said while searching through her bag. She found what she was looking for and went back to the bed. Yuria, here it is. You said his name was Oslo. This is bad. Why do you say that? Issei asked, concern etched on his face. Oslo isn't just backed by one country, it has support from several, including the United States, North Korea, Indonesia, India, and Iran. That makes it nearly untouchable. Except by you, it has a base in the Pacific and there are more bases around it to protect its own, Yuria explained. How many? Issei inquired. 9, they're armed to the teeth, and the world's #1 criminal is the one protecting it along with 55 class mercenaries. Are you really going to go there? If I don't, not only will the world be lost, but you know that too. He stood up to start getting dressed. I know, but it's a shame it's not in your heart. Who told you that you know you're important? To me. He smiled at her as he put on his jacket. Yuria blushed. But I'm already old and you're a young man with a bright future. The more wrinkled the skin, the sweeter the fruit. He moved closer to her, a playful glint in his eyes. She blushed even more, her cheeks warming. We're not done yet. If you want, come see me whenever you want, he whispered in her ear, leaving in a dress before walking away. 1 week later, Pacific Ocean location Mariana Islands, a marine base came into view as a helicopter landed, dropping off a man with blonde hair who looked to be around 40 years old, dressed in an elegant red suit. Once inside, he went to a special room that served as a laboratory where failed experiments lay lifeless, and in the middle was Kaneko in a critical state after having lost a lot of BLD over time. She could barely lift her head to see him. Well, so you're still alive. I'm surprised that Nikomadas have such vitality, Oslo remarked. He will come, I know it, Kaneko replied weakly. You always say Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time there was a boy who was abandoned by his parents at the age of 10. Why simple? His younger brother was the favorite and all his whims were fulfilled, including abandoning the older one. He walked over to a desk and grabbed a bottle of rum, pouring himself a glass. After that he roamed the streets for 2 years until one day he heard a woman screaming for help, and he rushed to assist her. That's when his career as a mercenary began, killing criminals, mobsters and others like a modern-day Robin Hood. He went to war in Afghanistan and many other places, then started recruiting more people to make things easier and allied himself with various governments and secret services. He took a sip of his drink. Then he traveled the world taking down corrupt governors and dictators. After that he returned to his homeland and nothing was ever heard of him again. He fell in love with several girls who later left him. Sound familiar? He moved closer to Kaneko. I know he will come, which is why I'm rushing the experiments, but when he arrives he'll find several modified mercenaries ready to kill him. Kaneko couldn't believe it. This was dire, but what could she do? Nothing. She felt weak. If it were her sister she would already have a plan to escape, but she wasn't her. A military plane could be seen flying over the Pacific. Inside were almost all the members of the Knights of the Apocalypse. They were preparing to jump as soon as the pilot gave the order. Alright guys, we're going into action in a few minutes. The plan is for each of you to destroy a base. I'll go where Kaneko is. We don't know the terrain, so we'll be at a disadvantage. Once you finish with your bases, take an acoustic vehicle or helicopter to my location. Issei instructed. Hai. Everyone responded in unison. We're over the target, go now. The pilot announced. The door opened and they began to jump one by one until Issei was the last. He fell at an incredible speed. Minutes passed until he spotted his target, an oil extractor. He quickly headed toward the sea to avoid detection. As he fell he aimed for a concrete structure, applying pressure with his wrist to slow his descent. Once he reached the top he grabbed onto a scaffold and began sliding down, then swung and jumped onto the platform. I've been waiting for you all this time. Haida. Kasumi taunted, laughter echoing in the air. Kasumi, the man they could never catch. Issei replied, steeling himself. We've never faced each other, but your men could never handle me. Well, it's time to find out. He pressed a button on a watch on his wrist, activating a suit. He lunged at Kasumi, aiming to take him down with one blow, but in a swift movement Kasumi pulled out a knife, cutting into Issei's shoulder. What the hell? Issei exclaimed, watching as his suit was easily sliced despite being 4 times harder than iron. Surprised, the dagger is made from a newly discovered material that's harder than diamond and sharper. Issei began to feel weaker. And I added something special to make our fight more even. I injected a poison that will make you human again for 12 hours. You son of a... Issei growled quickly, standing up as they locked eyes, and the fight began. Issei landed a punch to Kasumi's face while Kasumi retaliated with a hit to Issei's ribs. Both spat blood from the impact but continued exchanging blows, techniques, and defensive maneuvers. It was clear neither was tiring. Issei grabbed an assault rifle to shoot at Kasumi, who pulled out a pistol and fired back. Issei quickly ran around to avoid the bullets trying to hit Kasumi, but he did the same. They both ran out of bullets and started again. Issei landed a punch to Kasumi's stomach, but Kasumi pulled out his dagger, slicing Issei's cheek. Issei retaliated with a dagger of his own, cutting Kasumi on the forearm. Kasumi smiled, making moves to cut Issei, but he dodged and attempted to slice back. They exchanged cuts with their daggers, neither giving in, and ended up injuring each other simultaneously. After a while they were both covered in cuts. Issei tried to counterattack, but his move was poorly executed and Kasumi cut him in the abdomen. He fell to his knees, breathing heavily. Are you giving up, Issei? It's only been an hour or 2 since our fight began. Kasumi mocked. Issei stood up and pulled a syringe from his pocket, trying to stab it into Kasumi, but Kasumi snatched it away. In a quick movement Kasumi plunged the syringe into Issei, causing him to fall to his knees again. Was that your plan, be poisoning me? Kasumi taunted. I'm sorry, but it's Jake. Man, out of nowhere Issei stands up again, looking more energetic, his pupils dilated. Issei, did you really think I would kill you in such a cowardly way? I'll make you pay for what you did to Kaneko. He charged at Kasumi once more, this time with increased speed and strength. Kasumi realized that what he injected wasn't poison, it was adrenaline. He realized his mistake and tried to stop Issei, but it was impossible. The fight began again, and this time Issei had the advantage. 15 minutes later Kasumi was exhausted and covered in blood. Issei never stopped his relentless attacks. Only a miracle could save him, and that miracle arrived when the moonlight revealed a syringe on the ground with a bit of liquid inside. He recognized it as the adrenaline he had injected into Issei moments ago. Kasumi lunged at Issei but was met with a counterattack that sent him flying several meters away. Right where the syringe lay, Issei smirked. "Give up, you can't do anything anymore." "That's what you think," Kasumi replied, injecting the remaining adrenaline, and feeling his strength return he charged at Issei again, delivering a blow so powerful that they both spat blood. The fight continued, neither defending. They just exchanged hits. Kasumi grabbed his dagger and cut Issei's left forearm, causing him to drop his weapon. Seizing the moment, Kasumi kicked Issei, sending him flying. Issei struggled to get up, turning his back to Kasumi. "This ends now," he declared, injecting more adrenaline from his pocket, his veins visibly bulging. With renewed vigor, he lunged again, showcasing his martial arts skills. They exchanged punches to the chest, pushing each other back, then spotted their daggers and charged at each other once more. It was clear they were evenly matched, but Issei was already exhausted, beginning to see things blur. In a final move, he felt a familiar presence grab his shoulder, pushing him toward Kasumi's chest. In that instant, his dagger pierced Kasumi's heart. Issei emerged victorious, but at the cost of losing his dragon side and powers temporarily. Along with deep severe cuts, ignoring the pain, he headed toward the door where he encountered the assassins. He quickly dispatched them mercilessly, but before they died they shot him twice in the back, causing him to bleed even more. 20 minutes later, several mercenaries lay dead behind Issei as he moved down a completely white hallway. Finally reaching a door, he entered to find a man standing there with a glass of whiskey, smiling as he gazed at the sea. "It's been a while, old friend," Oslo said. "Shut your mouth, you be," Issei retorted. "What's wrong? Aren't you happy to see me?" "Where is she?" Issei demanded. "Who are you referring to?" Oslo replied with feigned innocence. "Cut the nonsense." "Oh, the girl, she's here," he said, drawing a katana and attempting to slice Issei dodged quickly, but Oslo made an inhuman move, changing the direction of the katana and cutting him. Issei was taken aback and threw a punch that had no effect. "Surprised, thanks to you, my dear friend, I was able to transform myself and many others into superhumans with animal traits. I know you noticed when you fought Kasumi and a few mercenaries." Issei said nothing and moved in with the intent to kill him. A fight quickly ensued, with Issei losing ground after several cuts. He looked tired, exhausted, and pale from blood loss. To finish the fight, Oslo plunged the katana into Issei's stomach, the blade emerging from his back. Believing he had won, he began to laugh, not expecting Issei to push him against his desk and stab him in the throat with a pen, choking him on his own build. Issei removed the katana and headed to the desk, searching for Kaneko, who was 2 rooms away. He rushed there without waiting for Oslo to press a button that read, "Self-destruction." The pillars of the base exploded, signaling that everything would collapse into the sea. Issei reached the room and saw Kaneko bound in chains. He quickly broke them. "Issei-senpai, you came," she cried, tears of joy in her eyes, but then noticed his injuries. "We don't have much time. This base will collapse with us inside if we don't get out of here soon," he urged. He lifted her onto his back and dashed away. "Guys, who's closest?" he called over the communicator. "I'm closest, Issei." "What happened?" Daichi replied. "That BS Oslo self-destructed the base and I need transport immediately. I'm on my way. Head to the helipad," he said before cutting the link. Issei ran as fast as he could, but his injuries made it hard to move quickly. Once outside, he headed to the helipad and saw a helicopter approaching with 5 more following it, indicating that the others had completed their missions. "I'm here," he shouted, lighting a flare to signal them, but he noticed the ground cracking beneath him. "Okay, Kirishima, prepare for extraction," Daichi said, piloting the helicopter lower. Issei set Kaneko down and watched as the helicopter descended, but the ground continued to crack. Realizing it was about to collapse, he grabbed Kaneko by the sides and threw her toward Kirishima, hoping he would catch her. As he did this, the ground broke apart, and he fell with the entire base above him. Kaneko watched in slow motion from the helicopter, seeing him smile lovingly at her. "Sizumpi," she cried, watching as he fell into the water, a massive debris crashing down on him, with more falling after. 14 God vs. Dragon, Kaneko shouted with all her might, but Daichi looked confident. Why, he thought Issei would emerge at any moment, but that wasn't the case until Kaneko rushed over. "Please save him, he can't use his magic or armor," she pleaded. "What did you say?" Daichi exclaimed, setting the autopilot and jumping out quickly. Meanwhile, Issei was falling toward the ocean floor, surrounded by massive and small debris. He watched his life flash before his eyes like a movie playing in fast forward until he saw something coming toward him. A hooded figure with small sides. It stopped in front of him as if floating in the water. It's been a while, old friend, Issei said weakly. Ha, look at you back in my grasp again. Death replied, what can I say, I just bring you trouble. That's right, Issei, you're like a cat but with more lives than that. You know you're my favorite. I've never seen a human endure so much. Is that a compliment or an insult? However you want to see it. Well, it's time, Death said, pulling out one of his sides. Just inches away he noticed something entering the water, moving like a torpedo. Looks like today isn't the day. There, well, Issei, it was nice chatting. Then he vanished from sight as someone pulled Issei out to the surface of the sea. Quick, we have to go, Daichi urged, spreading his wings and flying to the helicopter to lift off. Don't die, senpai, please, not again, Kaneko cried. Give him mouth-to-mouth. The water hasn't been cleared from his lungs, Daichi instructed. Without hesitation, Kaneko obeyed and began to breathe air into him. After a while, Issei started to expel the water and cough, but he fell unconscious from blood loss. 1 hour later, a carrier marked EU Arizona was conducting a training exercise at sea. Suddenly, helicopters appeared in the distance, alerting everyone. All hands to your stations. Unidentified targets are approaching. In the command center, a sailor reported, Sir, something is approaching and trying to communicate. Are they enemies? Another sailor asked. Sir, they're insisting a lot. The sailor replied, Captain, let's see what they have to say. For heaven's sake answer, Captain. I am the captain of this carrier. Who are you and what do you want? We have an urgent wounded person from the helicopter. Clear the space for landing, Captain. Identify yourselves. I can't allow that. For crying out loud, I am Apocalypse number 02. Make space on the carrier, or do I need to show you my papers? Captain, a knight of the apocalypse. Make way, they're landing now. The captain of the aircraft carrier demanded that the crew quickly move the planes aside to allow the helicopters to land. As they descended, a team of doctors was already waiting for them. They swiftly brought Issei down and took him to the emergency room while the others rushed over. Bakugo asked, what happened? Daichi replied, I don't know. Izuku, gripping Kaneko by the shoulders, questioned, why is Issei in that condition? Daichi interjected, enough already, she needs to rest too. Can't you see her state? He gestured toward Kaneko, who was wearing part of Issei's suit. Her face was pale and it seemed like she hadn't eaten in weeks. Daichi guided her to a room so she could shower and gave her a wrinkled female navy uniform to wear. Later, she found herself in the ship's dining area, finally eating something decent after days of hunger, which brought her to tears. In the distance, Bakugo could be seen eating with the others. Look at her eating while Issei is dying, he remarked. Izuku nodded. That's hard to deny, Kirishima asked. Do you think she deserves it? Bakugo replied. I say I could win her over with just a few sweet words. As he stood up from his seat, Daichi approached with a tray in his hands, warning, no one touches the girl. Unless you want to lose all your teeth, Bakugo shrugged. Come on, I was just joking, old man. He ignored Daichi and walked over to Kaneko. Shinso chimed in. Now you've really messed it up, Bakugo shot back. You shut up. Meanwhile, Daichi sat next to Kaneko, eating calmly. They remained in silence for a couple of minutes until she decided to speak. Thank you, Kaneko said, her hands intertwined and her head bowed. You don't need to thank me, thank Issei. He convinced us to come, Daichi replied. Kaneko asked, so you all? To be honest, I didn't want to come either. They think you deserved it, but you're still in Issei's heart. He's always been like that. Kaneko's eyes widened. He's always been like that since when? That's right, don't think you were the only one in his heart. Let me tell you. Daichi began to recount how he had gone to Afghanistan and met a girl who awakened a power in Issei that had never been seen before. That's why Issei can do what he does. It's because of you. Didn't you ever notice? He continued. Kaneko listened, tears streaming down her face as she recalled Issei's past memories flooded back of Rias and her engagement with Razor, how Issei had defended her from being kidnapped by his sister. Clutching her chest, she realized she was still in love with him, but the question lingered, would he accept her after everything she had said and done? He had come to her without any reward, purely out of his own volition. 15. The love of a dragon and the showdown of the century. At this moment, Issei lay in a bed. The doctors had removed the bullets and he was recovering. His body was healing incredibly fast and they didn't expect him to be in bed for less than a week. He seemed to be asleep until the door opened. Kaneko approached the bed and pulled up a nearby chair. Forgive me, she said in a trembling voice. Forgive me for being so foolish, for saying so many horrible things and treating you like that. You gave your life to save me so many times and I never knew how to repay you. Now look at you, you almost died rescuing me. Her voice broke as tears streamed down her face. I'm a coward, I couldn't even tell you when you were conscious, I could never say how much I love you, all because of my pride and insecurity. She hugged him, longing for his warmth, wishing he would never let her go, wanting to kiss him and feel his caresses, wanting to hear him say, "Kanekakan." Again, in an unexpected move, he embraced her and pulled her close to his chest. She was surprised and didn't move, listening to something that made her cry and smile at the same time. She heard him say it again, "Kanekakan." She fell asleep after that. Meanwhile, at the door, a smiling Daichi stood waiting. "Do you think what he's doing is right?" Bakugo asked. "We can't interfere, it's his life, not ours. Besides, he told you, didn't he? The love of a dragon lasts until death." Daichi replied, "Maybe you're right." Izuku said thoughtfully. 1 week later, everyone was on a plane from the United States, landing at a military base in Kyoto, Japan. As they disembarked, one person in particular was carrying a white-haired girl in his arms. The military was already waiting for them with armored trucks. They all climbed in and headed to a specific location where Issei had a friend. An hour later, they arrived at a temple, and the military left after taking them to their destinations. As they began walking toward the temple, they were stopped by guards who appeared out of nowhere. "What do you want?" one guard asked. "I'm an old friend of Yasaka," Issei replied. "Identify yourself," another guard demanded. "The security," Issei stated confidently. "Yai, sir. It's been a while, I'll notify them of your arrival." "Are these your friends?" the first guard asked. "That's right, don't worry, they're my pieces," Issei assured him. "Very well, Issei-sama," the guard said, leading them to a traditional Japanese room where they would have their first meeting. After a few minutes, they heard someone running and bursting through the door. A figure jumped so quickly that it was hard to see everyone. "Issei Otosan," Kuoh exclaimed as she landed in Issei's arms. "Kuoh, I'm so happy to see you." "It's been a while," Issei said, smiling. "It's been a year. So much time has passed. Mom misses you. When are you coming to marry her and give me a little brother?" she asked, innocently, making him blush. "It's not that simple, Kuoh. I need to have a very serious talk with your mother before I can give you a little brother." He was about to say more, but the guys quickly pulled him aside to a corner. "You're such a J. You have a daughter and didn't invite us to the baptism. You told us you'd make us the godparents of your first child," Kaminari exclaimed, shaking him frantically while Issei just made a chibi face. "You're an ungrateful dog," Izuku, Bakugo, and Shoto chimed in. "Enough already," Issei shouted, now furious. "First of all, she's not my biological daughter, she's more like a stepdaughter. Second, I don't have any kids yet, or at least none that I know of." Just then someone entered the room. "Asiken," Yasaka said, surprised. "Yasaka-san," Issei replied, his expression softening. "It's been a while," Yasaka said. "Same here, how have you been?" Issei asked. "Well, stressed. After all, I'm the leader of a faction," she admitted. "Right, I'll take you to a spa another time," Issei offered. "I hope so." "What brings you here?" Yasaka inquired. "We came to visit, that's all," Issei said. "Oh, I see, then we'll give you some rooms," Yasaka replied. "Thank you very much," Issei said gratefully. She approached Issei and whispered in his ear. "I hope you haven't forgotten your promise to give Kanuchin a brother." He blushed and nodded frantically while a certain boy with navy blue hair watched him with a serious expression. 3 hours later, Issei said, "So, Daichi, why did you call me?" "I need to play with Kuoh and take her to the park." "You know, Issei, we haven't faced off in a while, have we?" Daichi said, turning his back to him. "Daichi, you know that can't happen. We could destroy the world, or worse," Issei replied seriously. "Face me, Issei, so I can at least know what level you're at," Daichi insisted, determined. Issei saw his determination and knew that if he didn't agree willingly, Daichi would challenge him forcefully. "All right, Daichi, but it will be with witnesses and in a constructed arena, just you and me. With no one around, okay?" he said seriously. Daichi nodded, satisfied. "All right," Issei said, creating a magic circle. "Yasaka-sama, could you do me a favor?" 5 hours later, they were all in a hall. "So what are we waiting for?" Bakugo asked impatiently. "Thank you, Yasaka-sama, for creating the combat arena," Issei said. "No problem, Asiken." Yasaka replied. They were teleported to the combat arena. Everyone was in the stands except for 2 people. "Welcome. Today we are here to witness a fight of unimaginable magnitude. The battle will be between the Sekyur and Hakuryuku against the current Quetzalcoatl," the excited commentator announced. "Let the battle begin." They didn't move. "Hey guys, it started," Issei said. "All right, now you'll know who I am," he declared. He quickly kicked up dirt, throwing it into Daichi's face. Daichi began to spit out dirt, and in a moment of carelessness he elbowed Issei, who was coming toward him. "Kick him." Izuku shouted following the command. They both delivered simultaneous kicks to each other's backsides. "Oi!" They both exclaimed in unison. "Izuku, no, not like that!" he exclaimed, slapping his face. They grappled with each other, struggling for Demps. "Bakugo, lean into it with your own weight." Straining, they leaned and fell onto some rocks. The spectators gasped in surprise as they quickly pulled apart Shoto. "With your head." Taking his advice, both of them grabbed each other by the head and collided, causing them to fall back dazed. "Yasaka, come on guys, I could fight better than you two." They got back up, recovering from the last hit, and stared at each other. "Daichi, alright Issei, enough of the games." "Issei, I feel the same way," he said with a toothy grin. After separating, they stared intently at each other, contemplating their next move. Everyone watched with anticipation. Seconds, feeling like hours, a drop of sweat rolled down both of their faces, and then like a bell ringing, the moment arrived. Yasaka gasped in shock as she almost lost sight of them. Both were in the arena, fists raised, when a whistle sounded and an explosive wave erupted from their clash, shaking the entire arena. The ground cracked and Issei noticed it. Then the fissures began to close. Daichi delivered another blow, which Issei blocked with crossed arms, pushing him back into the forest. Issei managed to stop himself and dodged a punch aimed at him. He quickly grabbed Daichi's arm and kicked him in the abdomen, sending him flying. Daichi planted his feet on the ground, trying to slow himself down. In a swift motion, he threw a punch, and they collided fists. Again, they began to use various fighting styles: karate, judo, boxing, taekwondo, mixed martial arts, and all kinds of techniques never seen before, but neither yielded to such a powerful clash. Meanwhile, the leaders of the factions felt the immense power radiating from the colossal clash of strength. "Surzex, Graphia, did you feel that?" "Graphia, yes sir, an impressive power." "Surzex, it's coming from the dimensional rift. Quickly create a circle in that direction." Just then communication circles appeared, allowing the faction leaders to connect. "Azazel, you feel it too?" "Lucifer, Surzex, that's right, I'm currently creating a magic circle to go where that power is emerging." "Odin, what do you think it is?" "Kid, Surzex, honestly I don't know." "Zeus, then we'll see you there." He signaled everyone to cut the communication back to the battle. Issei and Daichi continued exchanging blows, neither backing down. With every punch thrown, they only met each other's fists, and the ground was being destroyed. All that could be heard were the sounds of thunderous impacts. "Yasaka, what power!" "I've never seen Issei fight with such focus." "Izuku, he's always been like this. He's the one who taught us what we know." "Yasaka, how long have you known him?" "Bakugo, since we were about 12 or 13 years old." "Kunu, after this you'll tell me more," she said with stars in her eyes. Back to the fight, the boys were breathing, their jackets torn, both left in just their shirts. "Daichi, this isn't what I want." "Issei, what do you mean?" "Daichi, this can't be the meaning of defeating the strongest man." "Issei, hi. Let's use real punches." Issei was taken aback. His hunger for a fight was so great that he only wanted to throw punches without any defense. "Izuku, no, don't do it." Everyone looked at him. "Izuku, you know there's a huge difference in height." "Daichi, you'd easily be a heavyweight and Issei a middleweight. If you collide fists, one of you will get seriously hurt." What Izuku said was true. That's why weight classes exist all over the world. "Daichi, I know that well, and it'll be worth it," he said with a toothy grin. "Bakugo, this can't be stopped. Neither Issei, nor the code, nor anyone," he said, crossing his arms and putting on a serious face. The two fighters squatted down, fists raised in the air. All that was heard was a whistle, and that's when the clash happened. Both took the full force of the attack, their fists embedding in each other's faces. They were separated by the impact, but quickly regained their footing and readied another punch elsewhere. "Gran Rojo, did you feel that?" "Infinito Office, yes Rojo," she said, her heart tightening. "We need to hurry, something is happening." With Issei back to the battle, the two continued to clash, neither yielding. "Daichi, this can't be. Even though I'm giving him my best punches, he's trying to push me back." "No, he's succeeding." "But Issei is only 175 meters tall and I'm 191, this is impossible." Issei was pushing him back. No one could believe it. He was really doing it. Someone who didn't even match his weight or size. Suddenly several magical circles appeared. Out of them emerged Odin, Azazel, Zeus, Surzex, Ajuka, Seraphal, Falbia, Michael, and finally the Gremory and Citri entourage. Surzex exclaimed, "What's going on here?" Yasaka replied, "Calm down, it's just a fight, don't interfere," she said sternly without looking at the newcomers. Azazel asked, "But who's fighting?" Shoto answered, "Issei and Daichi." Zeus inquired, "Who's Daichi?" Rias explained, "Daichi is Issei's prince, in other words his queen." "Peace," Odin demanded, "and can anyone tell me why they're fighting?" Shin stated, "Issei accepted the challenge, so just sit back and watch." Odin was about to respond when a dimensional rift opened. Out came a smaller red dragon, and riding on it was a girl with a gothic appearance. Red asked, "What's happening here?" Yasaka pleaded, Great Red, I beg you not to interfere in this match. It's a battle that Issei requested out of nobility. I swear it's worth it. He simply looked at her and then turned his gaze to the fight. In the fight, Issei and Daichi exchanged powerful punches, sending each other back a meter. Issei, breathing and with a bruise on his cheek, asked, "Ready to give up?" Daichi shouted defiantly, "Never." At that moment he began to glow with a golden light. Issei retorted, "Imin cheater," invoking his balance breaker. After a few seconds, Daichi was clad in golden armor. Issei was visible in his characteristic armor, but there was one detail: his wings were from the Hakyuku and parts of his armor were white. Issei declared, "Now it's your turn, Daichi." They launched themselves at each other with such speed that the leaders could barely see them. Another beep sounded and both crouched with their fists raised to their faces. Then began a fierce exchange of blows. Neither of them backed down in the face of such power. In the stands, Azazel said, "This is enough, I'll stop it." Great Red warned, "I wouldn't recommend that, Fallen One." Odin asked, "Why do you say that, Great Red?" Great Red replied, "Those two have already surpassed you, and I hate to admit it, but they'll surpass me soon enough." In the arena, Issei delivered a powerful blow that shattered Daichi's helmet. "I won't separate from you, and this is the fight you've been waiting for, isn't it?" Issei said, "That's right." Daichi responded, not holding back, as he landed a clean hit that separated them. They charged at each other again, landing blows to each other's faces, but neither moved. They continued trading punches until Issei began to advance once more. With each hit he landed, Daichi was pushed back. "Demon it, even though I'm giving it my all, I can't keep up," Daichi thought. Meanwhile, in the stands, everyone was thinking, who would have thought this fight would happen someday? A worthy battle, noble, a fight that brings you to your knees. In front of us stood perhaps the strongest men in the world. None of the spectators said a word or did anything. None of us could take our eyes off this fight. Back in the battle, Daichi thought, "Demon it, a kid who had forgotten everything just months ago is now trying to push me back. He's not just pushing me, he's defeating me." "Aya!" he shouted as he delivered a powerful blow, shattering Issei's helmet. You could see Issei leaning back, but his muscles tensed, and with great strength he struck back, sending Daichi flying several meters. "This ends here," Daichi shouted. "I, the one who awakens," Issei exclaimed. "In it, Daichi, don't do it. I am the dragon from the beginning of time, and that which God fears." Issei thought, "I think I have no choice. I will destroy the infinite and the dream. I will become the dragon god who created everything. I will rise from the depths of darkness." Juggernaut Drive. Take this as a reference, he thought. "I, the one who awakens, we are the dragons who stole from God's supremacy. I laugh at the infinite and mock the dream. I will become the dragon who dominates supremacy. I will plunge you into the depths of the crimson purgatory and take you beyond innocence." Juggernaut Drive. An overwhelming power began to seep throughout the arena. Azazel gasped, "What power?" Great Red remarked, "What a surprise." Ophis added, "I see it and I can't believe it." Great Red noted, "Issei has truly surpassed himself. He's now at level 3 of the strongest existences, and the other boy is already at level 5 of the strongest in the world." Ophis cautioned, "Well, be careful, they'll catch up to you." Great Red replied, "That will be inevitable. You really picked a good mate to breed with." "Sorry, but I can't assist with that." 19 The festival. Issei woke up after spending the night with his fiancées, a satisfied smile on his face as he looked over at them lying beside him. "Drake, wow, partner, after being a version with the others and getting to this point, I'm really proud of you," he said, feigning tears. "Issei, I won't deny it, but I'm not a version anymore, you know." Albion, "Good point, Issei. Well, I need to make breakfast." As he stepped out, he bumped into Akino, who blushed upon seeing him. "Good morning, Himejimison." Hearing him call her by her last name made her a bit sad, but she still returned his greeting. He headed down to the kitchen and started making eggs, bacon, and pancakes. You might wonder how he learned to cook after being Daichi's apprentice for a few days and having a few mishaps in the kitchen. He had gone from struggling to cooking like a 3-star chef. Of course, after getting a few bumps on his head, everyone learns. He saw Akino sitting at the dining table and handed her a plate. "Enjoy it, Akino-senpai," he said with a warm smile. Surprised, she took a bite, momentarily frozen in place. Meanwhile, he went upstairs to his room. "Issei, good morning, appealing sleepers," he said, waking them up and placing their breakfasts on the bed. "Kuroka and Ross, good morning, darling," they said in unison. "Ross, what time is it?" "It's 11:37, Kuroka. Really, you sure made us sleep in," she said, giving him a flirtatious smile as she started to eat. He and I would do it again, but how about I take you both on a date instead?" They accepted with great joy. After all, they were among the few engaged. Well, there were Ingvild and Elmenhild along with some potential candidates. In any case, he took them on the perfect date. They spent as much as they wanted on clothes, went to the movies, and finally enjoyed a romantic dinner. The day ended with a cozy night in the bedroom for the couple. Then Sunday arrived. You could see all the guys in an abandoned warehouse outside the city. Issei, "Alright guys, let's welcome the new member of the team, Gasper. Gasper, nice to meet you. What does the initiation involve?" "Daichi, Issei taught you how to drive, right, Gasper?" "Yeah, why?" "Izuku, every year we steal a few cars from different mafias and have a race with corrupt cops chasing us since the cars aren't registered with the government. In short, they're illegal." Gasper, "I see, and when does it start?" "Izuku now," he said, running off to a map showing the location of a mafia in the city. He marked a spot with a green rabbit and then took off. The others followed suit, leaving Gasper behind as the last one. 3 hours later, a car could be seen arriving on a street lined with buildings. More cars followed behind, forming a line. On the other side, another line of cars was forming, all from famous brands: Pagani, Lamborghini, Chevrolet, Koenigsegg, Ford, Porsche, Ferrari. It was as if rival car gangs were challenging each other. The onlookers quickly moved away, many calling the police, and sirens could be heard in the distance. Suddenly, a small car zipped down the street, executing an impressive maneuver with the windows down. The driver stuck his hand out and gestured at the other drivers, which seemed to infuriate them as they began to chase him. Surprisingly, the car was incredibly fast and agile. The other cars did their best to catch it, but it was too slippery. Then the corrupt police arrived trying to stop the cars, but they ended up flipping or crashing in the process. The news went viral. Reporters, social media, the chase was intense. It was estimated that the chaos had already reached a staggering number of incidents. The chase lasted 46 minutes, with the cars escaping without a trace. With the guys, you could see them on the outskirts of the city. "Izuku, what the hell kind of car is that, huh?" he laughed, pointing at Issei. "Issei, well, at least that car beat them, ha," he said, laughing while everyone else fell silent. "Anyway, how many were there?" "Bakugo, 258 and counting." Issei, "Wow, good job guys, we can head out now." Gasper, "Gasper, yes senpai." Issei, "Well done now. For the next problem, the cultural festival is coming up. As you know, there are only 3 of us in the music club, so we'll be busy." "Izuku, what about us?" Issei, "Do you want to join?" "Kirishima, of course. We wouldn't leave you hanging." Issei, "Thanks guys," he said with a smile. "Alright, I'll treat you, so let's go." 2 weeks later, you could see Issei and the others preparing the stage for the event, as they would be giving a concert after the other club's activities. To attract attention, they invited Kuoh University to the event, distributing flyers. Daichi, nervous? Issei, no. Daichi, I know you. Issei, what's going on? Issei, some important people are coming today, he said, remembering that Ross and Kuroka would be there. Daichi, that's normal, someone special is coming for me too. Hehe. Say, oh, and who's the lucky one? He asked, looking at him. Daichi, you'll see, he said nervously. Hours passed. Exactly 5 students began to enter what would be the academy's concert. After a few minutes, the place was almost full, but in the center a certain group of girls could be seen. Rias, I don't know why we're here, she said, glancing at Asia. Asia, because Issei is giving a concert, or so they say. At that moment, the brown-haired boy appeared in a jacket, jeans, a black shirt, and holding a guitar. Hello, hello, hello. We're here to show you what the new music club is made of, he said into the microphone, but there was no excitement, just someone coughing in the distance. Well, for our first act we'll have a demonstration of modern electronic music, so enjoy. After Issei said that, he went to the back of the stage. The curtain rose, revealing Daichi at a DJ booth. The lights went out and the music began. The stage lights started to shine again, this time in sync with the music. Everyone was amazed at how good the music sounded. Daichi, put your hands up. Everyone hesitated but eventually raised them. He started jumping and everyone followed suit. Girl, this is fun, boy. Yeah, it really is. The energy continued until it seemed the song was about to end, but then another one began. Everyone started shouting with excitement. The women tossed their hair and the men jumped around frantically. It was music that wasn't often heard in Japan, but now these performers had brought it here and the crowd loved it. The energy continued to build as one song led into another. Finally, everything came to an end. Daichi, you all had a great time? Everyone, yes. Daichi, okay, then I'll give you an activity. The spotlight will choose someone to come up and that person will do a duet with me. The spotlight moved around until it landed on a girl. Issei was surprised because he recognized her. Daichi, alright, you come up. She was handed a microphone and began to sing. Everyone was amazed by the girl's voice. She knew the lyrics to the song and didn't need any guidance. When they finished, Daichi and the girl exchanged a look filled with affection, making Issei feel a surge of jealousy. Daichi: "Alright folks, I'm Daichi and I hope you enjoyed that. Now we're bringing out our singer who will grant the privilege of singing with him. Two people in fact. The spotlight chose Asia and Aika." "Daichi, alright, you two come on up." He cursed silently in his mind. The two girls looked flushed, and once they were on stage they were given a microphone. As a screen began to lower, then a guitar was heard and Issei made his way through with Bakugo coming up from below with his drums, Izuku on bass, and others with various instruments. Everyone was stunned by Issei's voice. It was clear he had transformed in every way, and when he finished the applause was thunderous. "Daichi, let's give a round of applause for these lovely ladies." The crowd clapped. "Thank you for your participation. Now here comes something else. Daichi, you all are having a great time, everyone. Wasis. Daichi, and now a solo for our main singer." Tears filled everyone's eyes from the beauty of the song. Issei's exes were crying, finally understanding the feelings that had tormented him, and some regretted having left him, like Rias, Aquino, Ravel, and Kaneko. "Daichi, alright my people, we're going to say goodbye with a classic reggaeton song. Yes indeed, with our singers." Suddenly a limbo was brought out and everyone began to try to pass under it. Some stumbled, causing laughter and fun. Everyone started dancing without exception. Teachers, students, and even council members. During this song the boys took the opportunity to dance with Issei's exes. "Daichi, alright, and with this we bid farewell to a wonderful audience." Everyone began to find partners to dance with, including Issei, Daichi, Izuku, and Shurso, who went down to sing as the others performed. Aquino, on the other hand, was alone in a corner since the other girls were dancing, but then someone pulled her in to dance. "Aquino, what's wrong with you? Issei, don't close yourself off. Can enjoy and don't complain." He wrapped his arms around her waist and started to dance. "Aquino, iss is seekin'." They danced as Issei sang, making the other girls around them jealous, and so it went until it ended. 21. What really happened that night? Nights are one of the most appealing things in the universe, especially with a radiant moon peeking through. In a car, two people shared a bottle of golden apple liquor. Intoxicated by its effects, their bodies were intertwined, lost in their passion, with only the bright moon as a witness. The girl stifled her cries as she kissed the boy who caressed her lovingly. For them it was a joy that felt like heaven. The concert had ended and the students and guests were gradually leaving, praising the performers and declaring it one of the best concerts they had ever attended. "Daichi, alright Issei, we're going to grab something to eat and come back to help you." Issei sigh, "Fine, but don't take too long, okay? There's a lot to clean up." "Izuku, we'll be right back." They headed toward the exit where lovesick girls and eager students were waiting to ask if they could join the music club. Issei found himself alone again, picking up some cables when he heard someone call him. "Hello, Issei." He turned to see who it was, and upon recognizing her he remained composed. "Issei, what do you want, Miss Rias?" Rias was taken aback by his coldness. He rarely spoke to her like that. "Issei, shouldn't you be somewhere else with your boyfriend?" He sat on the stage. "Rias, there's nothing left between us. It's been 3 months since we broke up." She sat down as well. Issei, "Oh really, I'm sorry to hear that." Rias, "Don't worry, it was inevitable." Issei, "I see, and how are Lady and Lord Gremory?" Rias, "You know you don't have to call them that, especially not you." Issei fell silent. Rias, "They're fine though, not like before. Milikas is very busy with Grafia." Issei, "I'm glad to hear that." Rias, "Why did you never tell us about this?" "Tell what?" Rias, "That you sang, had business, and so much more." Issei sigh, "I never mentioned anything because I had a fight that caused me to have amnesia. That's why I didn't tell anyone." Rias, "I see, that explains everything. So what brings you here?" Rias, "I just came to see you sing," she said, blushing. Issei, "Oh really, what if we sing something together?" Rias, "Are you serious?" she asked, her cheeks matching her hair. Issei, "Of course." He got up to help her stand. He went behind the stage and returned with a microphone. Issei, "There's no one here, so don't be afraid, no one will hear you." He held a guitar and adjusted the microphone. Rias, "If you say so, I won't say no." She took a microphone. Issei took a remote control from his pocket and lowered a screen. Issei, "You just have to follow the lyrics that will appear above and that's it." Rias, "Alright, I'm ready." Rias, "But it's too late now. I remember you and me and how carefree we could be." Issei, "All day and all night we'd stay up. It felt so right. We were so young, we were so naive. We would enjoy each other's company and share moments together. We were okay, we were alright staying awake Till the sunrise we were in love, nothing could stop us, like a sweet escape, never enough, we'd share secrets in my car, drive it so far, you'd play your guitar and show me your art, letting down our guards, thinking with our hearts, staring at the stars, we were never apart, having fun, too young, living in the moment, out in the sun or inside when it's gone. Took you to prom, danced to our song, danced all night long. Issei was surprised by the other guitar and the drums, he looked over and saw his friends playing with smiles and thumbs up. Rias. Till the lights come on, it's too late now, I remember everything and how carefree we could be, but it's too late now, I remember you and me and how carefree we could be. Rias felt the song deep in her bones, remembering everything that happened with Issei, and tears streamed down her face. Issei, it's too late now. I remember everything and how carefree we could be 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 and how carefree we could be. Late nights, long arguments, it felt right, we were alive, we would go out, we were so loud, we were so proud, we had no doubts. Weekends and weekdays we'd spend our own way, we were carefree, we were fearless, we were adventurous, time was precious, we loved to waste time sharing drinks, enjoying the night. Asleep.